Elara's Awakening, a romantic fantasy audiobook written and narrated by Thora Ravencroft, copyright 2025, all rights reserved. The synopsis can be found in the video description. Chapter 1, Awakening. The silk sheets felt foreign against my skin as consciousness slowly crept in. Something wasn't right. My bed had never felt this luxurious, and the air carried an unfamiliar floral scent. My lady, it's time to rise. Lord Darius expects you to be ready for the morning meal. My eyes shot open at the unfamiliar voice. A young woman with copper-colored hair stood beside the massive four-poster bed, her hands clasped demurely in front of her. Who are you? My voice came out different, melodious and refined, nothing like my usual casual tone. My lady, are you feeling unwell? It's me, Lyra. I've been your personal maid for the past 3 years. I sat up abruptly, my head spinning. The room around me was enormous, with high vaulted ceilings and intricate tapestries adorning the walls. This definitely wasn't my cramped apartment in Chicago. Where am I? Lyra's brow furrowed with concern. You're in Blackwood Manor, my lady. Your husband's estate? Perhaps I should send for the physician. No, the word came out sharper than intended. I mean, no need. I just had strange dreams. Give me a moment to collect myself. I caught my reflection in a nearby mirror and nearly fell back onto the bed. The face staring back at me wasn't mine, or rather, wasn't the face I'd worn for 26 years. Instead, I saw high cheekbones, emerald green eyes, and flowing dark hair that cascaded past my shoulders. My Lady Elara, are you certain you're all right? Elara, that was my name now, apparently. I needed to play along until I could figure out what was happening. Yes, Lyra. I'm fine. Tell me, what are the plans for today? The maid's expression shifted to one of confusion. My lady, surely you remember? Lord Darius has arranged for your departure to your ancestral estate. The carriages are being prepared as we speak. Departure? Yes, my lady. After the incident, Lord Darius deemed it best for you to return to your family's estate until things settle down. The way she said incident made my skin crawl. What had happened? Of course, the incident. And what about? I trailed off, hoping she would fill in the blanks. Little Lady Lilith will be accompanying you, as discussed. She's already being prepared for the journey by her nursemaid, a child. I was responsible for a child now? And Lord Darius? Lyra's eyes dropped to the floor. He will remain here, my lady. He was quite clear about that. I'll help you dress, my lady. Lyra moved to an ornate wardrobe, pulling out a deep blue traveling dress. The journey to Ravenscroft Estate will take 3 days, weather permitting. As she helped me into the dress, my mind raced. 3 days of pretending to be someone I wasn't. Someone who apparently had a complicated life involving an estranged husband and his daughter. Tell me, Lyra. I chose my words carefully. How is Lilith handling all of Tiss? The poor dear doesn't fully understand, my lady. She's only 5. She keeps asking why her father won't come with us. Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she laced up my corset. But she adores you, as always. You're the only mother she's ever known. My heart clenched. Whatever had happened between this body's original owner and Lord Darius, an innocent child was caught in the middle. My lady, about the incident. Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. The servants are talking. They say Lord Darius accused you of practicing forbidden magic, but we all know you would never. A sharp knock at the door cut her off. A stern-faced older woman entered, holding the hand of a small girl with golden curls and tear-stained cheeks. Lady Elara, the carriages are ready. The woman's tone was clipped. Little Lady Lilith wished to see you before departure. The child broke free from the woman's grip and ran to me, wrapping her arms around my legs. Mama, please don't make us leave. I'll be good, I promise. I knelt down, coming face to face with those innocent blue eyes. Whatever mess I'd landed in, this little girl needed me. Sometimes, sweetheart, we have to go on adventures we didn't plan, but we'll be together, and that's what matters most. Will Father come visit us? Her lower lip trembled. I glanced at Lyra, who gave a subtle shake of her head. We'll see, darling. For now, let's focus on our journey. I hear Ravenscroft has beautiful gardens. Perhaps we can plant some flowers of our own? Lilith's face brightened slightly. Can I have my own garden? Of course you can. I squeezed her hands. Now, go with your nursemaid and make sure your favorite toys are packed. We'll be leaving soon. After they left, I turned to Lyra. Tell me honestly, what are we walking into at Ravenscroft? The estate has been abandoned for years, my lady. Since your parents. She hesitated. Since the plague took them, the staff is minimal and the lands have fallen into disrepair. But it's yours by right, and Lord Darius can't touch it. Perhaps that's why he's sending you there. He thinks you'll fail. And if we succeed? A small smile played at Lyra's lips. Then you'll prove what I've always known, that you're stronger than he believes. The journey preparations moved quickly after that. Servants bustled about, loading trunks onto carriages while I tried to maintain my composure. I kept Lilith close, her small hand in mine as we watched the controlled chaos. "My lady!" a gruff voice called from behind us. I turned to find a tall man in formal attire, his dark eyes cold and distant. Something in my chest tightened. This must be Lord Darius. I trust you understand the terms of your departure. His voice carried the weight of unspoken threats. Perfectly. I was surprised by the steel in my own voice. "Father!" Lilith reached for him, but he stepped back, avoiding her touch. "Remember your place, Elara. Ravenscroft may be your sanctuary, but step out of line, and I'll ensure you never see Lilith again." The threat sent ice through my veins. I pulled Lilith closer, feeling her tremble against me. "Is that all, my lord?" I kept my tone neutral, though rage burned beneath the surface. He smiled, but it never reached his eyes. "One more thing. Should you attempt any more of your experiments, I'll know. I have eyes everywhere." With that, he turned and strode away, leaving Lilith in tears and me with more questions than answers. What experiments? What had the real Elara done to deserve this? "Come, my lady." Lyra appeared at my side. "The first carriage is ready." As we settled into the plush interior, Lilith curled up against me, her sobs quieting to hiccups. Lyra sat across from us, her expression worried. "My lady, about what Lord Darius said." "Not now, Lyra, not with little ears listening." She nodded, understanding. Through the carriage window, I watched Blackwood Manor grow smaller, its imposing stone walls holding secrets I needed to uncover. Whatever had brought me to this world, whatever magic or fate had placed me in Elara's body, I had to succeed. Not just for myself, but for the little girl who now depended on me. As we passed through the manor gates, I caught a glimpse of movement in an upper window. Lord Darius stood watching, his figure dark against the glass. A shiver ran down my spine as the carriage turned onto the main road, taking us toward an uncertain future at Ravenscroft Estate. Chapter 2. The Journey Begins. The carriage jolted over another rough patch of road, making Lilith stir in her sleep against my shoulder. We'd been traveling for hours, the lush countryside of whatever realm I'd found myself in rolling past our windows in an endless sea of green. "My lady, perhaps we should stop soon." Lyra's voice was soft, mindful of the sleeping child. "There's an inn ahead that's known for its hospitality, and its discretion?" I caught the meaning in her careful tone. "Yes, the innkeeper's family has served yours for generations. Lord Darius's influence doesn't reach there." A crack of thunder made us all jump. Dark clouds had gathered overhead, turning the late afternoon sky an ominous shade of purple. "That's not natural." Lyra's face had gone pale. "My lady, we should hurry. Storm wraiths have been spotted in these parts lately." "Storm wraiths?" Before she could answer, an otherworldly screech pierced the air. The horses whinnied in panic, and our driver shouted something I couldn't make out. The carriage lurched violently. "Mama?" Lilith's eyes flew open, wide with fear. "Hold on to me, sweetheart." I pulled her closer as the carriage picked up speed, racing toward what I hoped was safety. Through the window, I caught glimpses of dark shapes moving within the storm clouds, writhing serpentine forms that seemed to be made of shadow and lightning. "The wards, my lady." Lyra's voice was urgent. "You must activate the wards." "The what?" "The protection spells. In your ring, the one Lord Darius couldn't take away. Press the stone and speak the words. I looked down at my hand, noting for the first time an intricate silver ring set with a deep purple stone. But what words? Another screech, closer now. The carriage swerved sharply, and Lilith screamed. Something in my mind stirred. Muscle memory, perhaps, or echoes of the real Elara's knowledge. Without thinking, I pressed the stone, and words I didn't know I knew spilled from my lips. Luminous protego. The ring grew warm, then blazing hot. A dome of silvery light burst outward, enveloping our carriage just as one of the wraiths dove toward us. It struck the barrier with a sound like shattering glass, but couldn't penetrate it. Hold the spell, my lady. Lara had pulled Lilith into her lap, shielding her. The inn is just ahead. My arm trembled with the effort of maintaining whatever magic I was channeling. More wraiths circled above us, their shrieks becoming a terrible chorus. The horses were in a panic now, the carriage barely under control. There! Lara pointed through the storm. A warm glow of lanterns pierced the darkness, and I could make out the shape of a large building, the inn. The protective barrier flickered as my strength waned. One of the wraiths took advantage of the weakness, its shadowy form partially penetrating the dome. An arctic chill filled the carriage, and Lilith's scream pierced my heart. Not my daughter. The words burst from me before I could think about them. The ring blazed brighter, and a pulse of energy exploded outward, sending the wraiths reeling back into the storm. The carriage burst into the inn's courtyard, and I saw men rushing out with blazing torches. They held them high, creating a circle of light that seemed to keep the storm wraiths at bay. Quick, my ladies. A burly man yanked open our carriage door. Inside before they regroup. We scrambled out, Lyra carrying Lilith while I struggled to maintain the protective barrier until we reached the door. As soon as we crossed the threshold, I felt something different, a tingling sensation that suggested this place had its own magical protections. Lady Elara of Ravenscroft, a woman with silver-streaked hair, bowed deeply. I am Mistress Sarah. We've been expecting you. You have? Of course. The ravens brought word of your departure from Blackwood Manor. She glanced at the windows where the storm still raged. Though it seems Lord Darius's reach extends further than we anticipated. Those wraiths, I began, were no natural occurrence, my lady. Sarah's eyes hardened. Storm wraiths can be bound to a sorcerer's will, though it's forbidden magic. Come, let's get you settled. We have much to discuss once the little one is asleep. She led us to a comfortable suite with a connecting room for Lilith. As Lyra helped the exhausted child prepare for bed, Sarah pulled me aside. My lady, forgive my boldness, but you seem different than I remember. The Elara I knew would never have managed that protection spell so effectively. Your magic has grown stronger. She studied me intently. Or perhaps you're not quite who you appear to be. You're more perceptive than most, Mistress Sarah. I chose my words carefully. Tell me, what else do you notice? She gestured for me to sit by the hearth while servants brought hot tea. I notice a woman who wields unfamiliar power with surprising skill. I notice someone who looks at her own hands as if they belong to a stranger. Her eyes softened. And I notice how you protect Lilith with the fierceness of a true mother, despite having no blood ties to her. If you know all this, then you know I'm in a precarious position. Indeed, but perhaps that's exactly what was needed. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. The real Elara was different, talented in magic, yes, but reckless, obsessed with forbidden arts. Her experiments nearly destroyed Blackwood Manor, and Lilith with it. My blood ran cold. What happened? She attempted to open a portal to the Shadow Realm, seeking more power. The backlash nearly killed everyone in the manor. Lord Darius stopped her, but not before the damage was done. Sarah's expression darkened. The real question is, who are you, and how did you come to be in her body? I don't know, I admitted. I woke up this morning in her bed, with her face and her life in shambles. But I do know one thing. I won't let any harm come to Lilith. Those storm wraiths weren't natural, my lady. Someone sent them. Someone who knows powerful, dark magic. Darius? Perhaps, or perhaps someone working with him. Sarah stood, walking to a cabinet. She returned with a small wooden box. This belonged to your family, the Ravenscroft line. I've kept it safe, waiting for the right moment. Inside was a delicate silver pendant, carved with intricate runes. What is it? A focus stone. It will help you channel and control your magic more effectively. You'll need it. The road to Ravenscroft Estate is long, and I doubt this will be the last attempt on your life. As if to emphasize her words, another crash of thunder shook the inn. Through the windows, I could still see the storm wraith circling, waiting. Rest tonight, Sarah advised. Tomorrow, I'll teach you what I can about controlling your powers. You'll need every advantage for what lies ahead. Chapter 3, Secrets of the Mine. Dawn broke over the horizon as I stood in Ravenscroft Estate's crumbling library, dust motes dancing in the early morning light. After a week of settling in, the reality of our situation was becoming clear. We were nearly destitute. These ledgers are troubling, my lady. Lyra spread another ancient book before me. The estate's coffers are almost empty. I traced my fingers over faded entries, trying to make sense of the flowing script. There must be something we're missing. An estate this size would have had multiple sources of income. Well, Lyra hesitated, glancing around as if the walls might be listening. There are rumors about the old gem mine in the northern hills. It was the source of your family's wealth for generations. Was? It was sealed 20 years ago, after your parents. She trailed off, then continued in a whisper. Some say it's cursed now. Strange lights, odd noises. The villagers won't go near it. A knock at the library door made us both jump. Sarah entered, carrying a tray of tea and fresh bread. After our encounter with the storm wraiths, she'd insisted on accompanying us to Ravenscroft. I see you've discovered the mine documents. She set the tray down. I was wondering when you'd ask about it. What happened there, really? Sarah's eyes grew distant. The official story is that there was a collapse, but your father's last letter to me told a different tale. He spoke of something they found deep in the earth, something that shouldn't have been disturbed. And now? Now the mine sits abandoned, its wealth untapped. Sarah pulled an old map from a nearby shelf. But if you could reopen it. We could save the estate, I finished her thought. Where's the nearest city? We need information supplies. Silvercrest lies 3 days' ride east, but my lady, the road is dangerous, especially now. I have to try, for Lilith's sake. I looked out the window to where the little girl played in the overgrown garden. We can't survive here without income. Then I'm coming with you, Lyra declared. No, I turned back to them. You need to stay with Lilith. Sarah, will you accompany me instead? Your knowledge of magic could prove useful. I'll go with you, Sarah agreed. But first, there's something you should see. She pulled an old journal from beneath her robes. This belonged to your father. I've been waiting for the right moment to share it. The leather-bound book was worn, its pages yellowed with age. Opening it, I found entries dated just before the mine's closure, day 147 of excavation. We've broken through to a new chamber. The crystals here are unlike anything we've seen. They pulse with their own light, sing with their own voice. But something feels wrong. The workers are experiencing strange dreams. Marcus swears he saw shadows moving against the walls. What happened to Marcus? I asked, looking up from the journal. Disappeared, Sarah replied grimly, along with 3 others. That's when your father ordered the mine sealed. A small voice interrupted our discussion. Mama, look what I found. Lilith burst into the library, holding something that glittered in her small hands. My heart stopped when I saw what she held, a crystal that pulsed with an inner light, just like the ones described in the journal. Where did you find this, sweetheart? In the garden, under the old rose bushes. She held it up proudly. It sings to me. Sarah and I exchanged alarmed glances. Lilith, may I see it? She handed it over reluctantly. The crystal was warm to the touch, and I could feel it humming against my palm. Something stirred in my borrowed memories, a recognition of its power. This is a heartstone, Sarah breathed. They were your family's greatest treasure before, before the mine was sealed, but they were all supposed to be locked away, if one found its way to the garden. Then the mine seals may be weakening. Sarah's expression was grave. We need to leave for Silvercrest immediately. There's a scholar there, Master Thorn, who studied these crystals. He might know what we're dealing with. What about Lilith? I'll stay with her, Lyra volunteered. The estate's old wards are still strong. We'll be safe. I knelt before Lilith. Mama has to go away for a few days, but I'll come back as soon as I can. Will you be brave for me? She nodded solemnly. Like in the stories, where the hero goes on a quest? Exactly like that. I hugged her tightly, breathing in her sweet scent. And heroes always come home. I'll go with you, Sarah agreed, studying the map. But first, we should investigate the mine entrance. If we're going to seek investors in Silvercrest, we need to know what we're dealing with. I nodded, then turned to Lyra. If we're not back by sunset. I'll seal the estate's protective wards and keep Lilith safe, she finished. But please, my lady, be careful. The mine has a dark reputation. The northern hills loomed before us as Sarah and I made our way through the overgrown path. The summer heat was stifling, but something about the air around the mine entrance felt wrong, colder, heavier. Do you feel that? I touched the focus stone hanging at my throat. It had grown ice cold. Dark magic. Sarah's voice was grim. Whatever your parents found down there, it left its mark. The mine entrance was sealed with heavy timber doors, reinforced with iron bands. Strange symbols were carved into the wood, not the protective runes I'd grown familiar with, but something older, more sinister. These are binding runes, Sarah explained, tracing them with her finger. Your parents weren't trying to keep people out. They were trying to keep something in. A whisper echoed from behind the doors, not quite a voice, but not quite wind either. The focus stone pulsed against my skin. Can you translate the runes? Sarah squinted at the markings. Most are standard containment spells, but this one. She pointed to a complex symbol near the lock. This is a blood seal. Only a Ravenscroft can break it. Then it's a good thing I'm in a Ravenscroft body. I reached for the symbol, but Sarah caught my wrist. Wait. Listen. The whispers had grown stronger, forming words I could almost understand. A chill ran down my spine as I realized they were calling my name, not my real name, but Elara's. Something in there knows you, Sarah warned. Or rather, knows who you're pretending to be. Are you sure you want to? I pressed my palm against the blood seal before I could lose my nerve. The symbol flared with crimson light, and pain shot through my arm. The doors shuddered, then swung open with a grinding sound that echoed through the hills. Stale air rushed out, carrying with it the scent of earth and decay, and something else, something metallic that made my head spin. The focus stone grew warm again, pulsing in time with my racing heart. My lady. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Look! In the darkness beyond the entrance, something glowed. Not the steady light of torches or gems, but a shifting, swirling pattern that seemed to follow its own rules of physics. The glowing patterns seemed to form shapes, faces that appeared and dissolved like smoke. Sarah gripped my arm tightly. Those are soul echoes, she whispered. Remnants of the miners who were lost. We shouldn't be here. But something pulled at me, a compulsion I couldn't resist. The focus stone grew warmer, almost burning against my skin. One of the faces in the darkness became clearer, a man with familiar features that stirred Elara's memories. Father? The word escaped my lips before I could stop it. The ghostly face turned toward me, its eyes filled with an otherworldly light. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Elara. My child, beware the heart of the mountain. These crystals, they hunger. What do you mean? What do they hunger for? But the apparition was already fading. Other faces swirled around us, their whispers growing more urgent, more desperate. We need to leave. Sarah pulled at my arm. Now! A deep rumble shook the ground beneath our feet. From deep within the mine came a sound like crystal chiming, but distorted, wrong. The focus stone at my throat pulsed frantically. We stumbled back as something emerged from the darkness, a crystalline formation that seemed to grow before our eyes, reaching toward us with jagged fingers of light. The seal, Sarah shouted. Close it! I pressed my hand against the blood rune again, crying out as it burned my palm. The doors slammed shut with a boom that echoed through the hills, cutting off the otherworldly light and the whispers of the dead. We stood there panting as the evening shadows lengthened around us. "Well," I managed finally, "I suppose we know why the mine was sealed. This changes everything," Sarah said grimly. "We're not just dealing with a cursed mine. We're dealing with something that's alive, something that's been growing stronger for 20 years. The Heartstone Lilith found must have worked its way up through the earth." Sarah nodded. "The question is, how many more are out there? And what happens when they all wake up?" The streets of Silvercrest bustled with life as our carriage rolled through the iron gates. After 3 days of tense travel, the city's gleaming spires and magical lanterns were a welcome sight. "Remember," Sarah murmured, "we're here to meet Master Thorn and seek investors. Try not to draw attention to." Lady Elara of Ravenscroft, a booming voice cut through the crowd. A tall man with silver-streaked hair pushed through the throng, his rich merchant's robe swishing against the cobblestones. "Marcus?" Sarah's face had gone pale. "But you disappeared. The mean." The man's friendly smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Reports of my demise were greatly exaggerated, my dear Sarah. When I heard Lady Elara had returned to claim her birthright, I simply had to pay my respects. Something about him felt wrong." The focus stone at my throat had grown ice-cold again. "How kind of you," I managed, channeling what I hoped was Elara's aristocratic bearing, though I wonder how news of my return traveled so quickly. "Oh, word spreads fast in Silvercrest, especially when it concerns the Ravenscroft mines." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I was there, you know, the day we found them. The singing crystals. Your father wouldn't listen to reason about their potential." "And what reason was that?" His eyes gleamed with an unnatural light. "Power, my lady. Pure, unlimited power, the kind that could reshape this realm. But perhaps we should discuss this somewhere more private." "Actually, we have an appointment with Master Thorn," Sarah cut in smoothly. "Perhaps another time." "Ah, yes, the scholar." Marcus's smile turned cold. "Do give him my regards, though I doubt his academic perspective will be of much use to you. When you're ready to discuss real solutions, you can find me at the Crystal Crown Tavern." As he melted back into the crowd, Sarah gripped my arm. That was not the Marcus I knew. The real Marcus was kind, gentle. This one has been touched by whatever's in that mine, I finished. "Did you see his eyes?" "Like the crystals themselves." Sarah shuddered. "We need to find Master Thorn. Now." Master Thorn's workshop was tucked away in one of Silvercrest's winding side streets, marked only by a weathered sign depicting an open book in crystal. The scholar himself was exactly what I'd expected, elderly, bespectacled, and surrounded by teetering stacks of manuscripts. Lady Elara. He bowed awkwardly, nearly knocking over a pile of scrolls. "And Sarah, it's been too long. Please, sit. Though, mind the books." We carefully navigated through the literary maze to a small sitting area. I placed the Heartstone Lilith had found on his desk. Thorn's eyes widened behind his spectacles. "By the ancient powers, where did you find Tiss?" "In my garden at Ravenscroft Estate. But there's more." I described our encounter at the mine, the soul echoes, and Marcus's strange appearance. With each detail, Thorn's expression grew more troubled. "This confirms my worst fears," he said finally, pulling an ancient tome from a nearby shelf. 20 years ago, your father consulted me about something they'd discovered in the mine. A chamber filled with crystals unlike any we'd seen before. Living crystals. Living?" Sarah leaned forward. "How is that possible? The Heartstone crystals aren't just gems. They're more like seeds." He opened the book to reveal detailed illustrations. They grow, they spread, and they adapt. But they need energy to do so. Life energy. A chill ran down my spine. The missing miners. Precisely. The crystals absorbed them, used their life force to grow stronger. Your father realized the danger and sealed the mine, but not before Marcus and several others were exposed to their influence. And now Marcus is here in Silvercrest, looking exactly as he did 20 years ago, I said. "How is that possible? The crystals preserve what they take." Thorne's voice dropped to a whisper. That man you met isn't Marcus anymore. He's a vessel, a puppet for whatever consciousness lives within the crystal network. Then we need to destroy them, Sarah declared. It's not that simple. Thorne shook his head. The crystal network is likely spread far beyond the mind by now, growing beneath the earth. And if what you saw is any indication, it's becoming more aggressive. So what do we do? There might be a way. He rummaged through another stack of books. Legends speak of an artifact, the Null Stone. It was created specifically to counter magical crystals that grew out of control. The last known location was... A commotion outside interrupted him. Shouts and screams echoed from the street, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Sarah rushed to the window. "My lady, we need to leave, now!" Through the glass, I saw figures moving through the gathering dusk, people with an unnatural grace, their eyes glowing with the same light we'd seen in Marcus's. "They're not alone," Sarah warned. "They're carrying crystals. The back door," Thorne whispered urgently, pulling aside a tapestry to reveal a hidden passage. "It leads to the alchemist's quarter. I'll hold them off." "Master Thorne, they'll kill you." "No," he smiled grimly, pulling an ornate crystal from his robes. "They'll try to convert me, but I've spent decades studying these crystals. I have a few tricks of my own. Now go." Sarah pulled me into the passage just as the workshop's front door splintered. Through the gap in the tapestry, I saw Thorne raise the crystal, which blazed with pure white light. Screams, not human screams, filled the air. We ran through the narrow passage, the sounds of conflict fading behind us. The focus stone pulsed against my throat, warning of danger ahead. "Stop," I grabbed Sarah's arm. Just in time, 2 crystal-touched citizens passed by the passage's exit, their movements unnaturally fluid. Sarah whispered. "But why? What do they want?" "The Heartstone," I realized. "The one Lilith found. We left it with Thorne. It's too late to go back. We need to get out of the city and warn Ravenscroft. If they're mobilizing like this, then Lilith could be in danger." The thought sent ice through my veins. "We need horses, now." We slipped from shadow to shadow through the alchemist's quarter, avoiding the searching crystal touched. Their numbers seemed to be growing. More citizens emerging from shops and homes with that telltale glow in their eyes. "It's spreading," Sarah observed, "like an infection. The crystal network is taking over the city." A familiar voice called out behind us. "Going somewhere, ladies?" We turned to find Marcus, holding the Heartstone we'd left with Thorne. His entire body seemed to shimmer now, as if crystal was growing beneath his skin. "The children of the crystal welcome you home, Elara," he said, his voice resonating with an otherworldly chorus, "just as they welcomed me 20 years ago. Don't you want to see what your father discovered? What true power feels like? You're not Marcus anymore," I said, backing away slowly. "You're just a puppet for whatever's growing in that mine." He laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Oh, I'm more Marcus than I ever was. The crystals showed me truth, showed me power. And now they want to show you too, Elara. Or, should I say," his eyes fixed on mine with terrible knowing. "Whoever you really are?" Sarah gasped beside me. I felt the focus stone grow hot against my skin. "You're not the real Elara," Marcus continued. "We can sense it. But that doesn't matter. The crystals will remake you, just as they remade me. They'll give you purpose. I already have a purpose." I thought of Lilith waiting at home. "And it doesn't involve becoming a crystal puppet." Marcus's face hardened. "Then you leave us no choice." He raised the Heartstone, which began to pulse with sickly light. All around us, more crystal-touched citizens emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing in unison. "Sarah," I whispered, "remember that protection spell from the storm wraiths?" She nodded slightly. "On my mark." I touched the focus stone, feeling its power surge through me. "Now, Luminous Pritigo," we shouted together. Our combined magic burst outward in a dome of silver light, just as Marcus and his followers lunged forward. The crystal touched crashed against our barrier like waves against a cliff. Marcus howled in fury, pressing the Heartstone against the shield. Cracks of crystalline energy began spreading across our protective dome. "We can't hold this forever," Sarah warned, her voice strained. "We don't have to." I had spotted something, a water tower looming above the street, just long enough to do this. I channeled power through the focus stone, aiming at the tower's supports. The metal groaned, then snapped. Hundreds of gallons of water crashed down onto the street, sweeping away our attackers in a torrent. Run! We sprinted through the chaos, heading for the stables we'd passed earlier. Behind us, I heard Marcus's inhuman scream of rage. "The city's lost!" Sarah panted as we ran. "If they've spread this far, then we need to warn everyone, starting with Ravenscroft Estate." I thought of Lilith and Lyra, unaware of the danger growing beneath their feet. And we need to find that null stone. Fast. Chapter 5, Shadows Rising. The journey back to Ravenscroft Estate was a blur of exhausted horses and paranoid glances over our shoulders. Every rustle in the underbrush made me flinch, expecting to see crystal-touched followers emerging from the shadows. We arrived just before dawn, the estate's silhouette a welcome sight against the lightning sky. But something was wrong. The gardens were too quiet, no birdsong, no morning bustle of servants. "The wards are intact," Sarah noted, touching the invisible barrier around the property. But, "Lilith!" I sprinted toward the main entrance, heart pounding. The focus stone grew cold against my skin. We found Lyra in the great hall, pale but alive, clutching a wooden staff like a weapon. "My lady, thank the ancient powers you're back." "Where's Lilith?" "Safe in the hidden chamber beneath the library, just as you instructed in your family grimoire." She looked at our disheveled state. "What happened in Silvercrest?" "The crystal infection has spread," Sarah explained quickly. "Marcus is alive, or something wearing his face is. They're converting people, building an army. Then we have bigger problems." Lyra led us to a window overlooking the northern hills. "Last night, lights started appearing in the old mine. And look at the gardens. Tiny crystals had pushed through the soil, their surfaces gleaming with that same unnatural light we'd seen in Silvercrest. They seemed to be growing in a pattern, reaching toward the house like fingers. They're trying to get in," I realized. "The wards are the only thing holding them back." A small voice called from the library doorway. "Mama?" "Lilith!" I rushed to embrace her, checking for any signs of crystal corruption. She seemed unharmed, but her eyes were wide with fear. "The crystals are singing again," she whispered. "But their song is different now, angry." "What else can you hear in their song, little one?" Sarah knelt beside Lilith, her voice gentle but urgent. "They're calling for something." Lilith's small face scrunched in concentration. "No, someone they want." She looked up at me with frightened eyes. "They want you, Mama." I shared a look with Sarah. "Master Thorne mentioned a nullstone, an artifact that could stop the crystals. Did he say where to find it?" "He was interrupted before he could tell us," Sarah replied. "But there might be something in the family grimoire. The Ravenscrofts were known for keeping detailed records." "The grimoire's in Father's study," Lilith offered. "I saw it when I was exploring." "Lyra, stay with Lilith," I ordered. "Sarah and I will check the study. And strengthen those wards. We can't let any of those crystals breach the house." The study was exactly as Lord Ravenscroft had left it 20 years ago. Dust-covered books, half-finished correspondence, and magical implements scattered across the massive oak desk. The grimoire sat in a locked glass case, its black leather binding etched with silver runes. "Another blood seal," Sarah noted as we examined the case. "Your father was thorough." I pressed my palm against the lock, gritting my teeth against the now familiar burn. The case opened with a soft click. The grimoire's pages were filled with cramped handwriting and detailed diagrams. I flipped through sections on ward crafting, crystal manipulation, and here Sarah pointed to a passage. The null stone was created by the first mages to contain crystal outbreaks. It's kept in the vault of containment, in the ruins of the old magical academy. Where's that? 3 days' ride west, in the Shadow Mountains. She traced the route on a nearby map. But, my lady, those ruins are dangerous. The academy was abandoned centuries ago after a magical catastrophe. We don't have a choice. I looked out the window at the spreading crystal growth. The wards won't hold forever, and we can't let what happened to Silvercrest happen here. A crash from below made us both jump. Lyra's voice called up the stairs. "My lady, they're testing the wards." We rushed downstairs to find Marcus himself at the estate's main gate, surrounded by a dozen crystal-touched followers. The wards shimmered where they pressed against them, creating ripples of silvery light. "Your barriers won't hold forever, Elara," Marcus called out, his voice carrying that unnatural resonance. "The crystals remember this place. They were born here, deep in the earth beneath your feet. This is their home. Keep Lilith away from the windows," I whispered to Lyra, who nodded and hurried the child deeper into the house. "We need to leave," Sarah said urgently. "If we can reach the Shadow Mountains, find the Nullstone. But the wards—" "I can strengthen them temporarily," she replied. "Enough to buy us a few days, but we need to move quickly." I made my decision. "Lyra, pack supplies for Lilith. Light, essential items only. Sarah, reinforce those wards. I need to get something from the study." Racing back upstairs, I grabbed the grimoire and my father's journal. If there were any other clues about fighting the crystals, we'd need them. A sharp crack echoed through the estate. One of the wards had fractured. "Time to go," Sarah called. "The back gate. I've prepared horses." We gathered in the kitchen, where Lyra had Lilith bundled up and ready. The little girl's face was brave, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "Listen carefully, sweetheart," I knelt before her. "We're going on an adventure, like in your stories, but we have to be very quiet and very brave. Can you do that?" She nodded solemnly. "Like a shadow cat?" "Exactly like a shadow cat." Another crack, closer this time. Through the kitchen window, I could see crystals pushing through the garden soil, growing faster now, reaching toward the house with deadly purpose. "Sarah, you lead with Lilith," I ordered. "Lyra and I will guard the rear. Whatever happens, get her to safety." As we slipped out the back gate, Marcus's voice rang out one final time. "You can't escape what you are, Elara. The crystals will remake this world, and you with it." I didn't look back as we rode into the gathering dawn, but I could feel the crystal song pursuing us, a haunting melody that promised both power and oblivion. Chapter 6, The Shadow Mountains. The Shadow Mountains lived up to their name. Even in daylight, dark clouds clung to their peaks, and the ancient trees grew so thick their branches blocked most of the sun. We'd been traveling for 2 days, staying off the main roads to avoid Marcus's crystal-touched followers. "The old academy should be just beyond that ridge." Sarah pointed to a particularly forbidding peak. "If the maps in the grimoire are accurate—" Lilith rode in front of me, unusually quiet. She hadn't complained once during our journey, but I could feel her trembling whenever we passed patches of crystal growth pushing through the forest floor. "The songs are stronger here," she whispered. "Different, older." I shared a concerned look with Sarah. The child's sensitivity to the crystals was both a blessing and a curse. She could warn us of danger, but I worried about what prolonged exposure might do to her. "My lady," Lyra called from her position as rear guard. "Riders approaching." We urged our horses into a dense thicket, watching as a patrol of crystal-touched soldiers passed by on the road below. Their armor glinted with an unnatural sheen, and their movements were too fluid, too coordinated. "They're searching the mountains systematically," Sarah observed once they'd passed. "Marcus must know about the Nullstone." "Or the crystals do," I added, remembering how they seemed to possess their own intelligence. "We need to reach the academy before—" A scream cut through the forest, high, inhuman, and far too close. Our horses whinnied in panic. "Shadow wraiths?" Lyra drew her sword. The stories were true. The Academy's guardians still protect these woods. Dark shapes materialized among the trees, vaguely humanoid but composed of writhing shadows. The focus stone blazed hot against my throat, responding to their presence. "Run." I grabbed Lilith tighter. Head for the ridge. Our horses galloped through the darkening forest, shadow wraiths pursuing us like wind-blown smoke. Wherever they touched, the vegetation withered and died instantly. "The academy gates." Sarah pointed to ancient stone pillars ahead, covered in glowing runes. "If we can get inside." A shadow wraith materialized directly in our path. My horse reared, nearly throwing Lilith and me. I clutched the focus stone, channeling power through it. Luminous Maxima. The burst of light scattered the wraith temporarily, but more were closing in. We could see the academy ruins now, a sprawling complex of weathered stone buildings, partially reclaimed by the forest. "The wards," Lara shouted. "They're still active." She was right. A shimmering barrier stretched between the gate pillars. But would it recognize us as friends or foes? "Hold tight, Lilith." I spurred my horse forward, praying to whatever powers existed in this world. The shadow wraiths converged behind us, their otherworldly screams reaching a fever pitch. We hit the barrier at full gallop. For one terrible moment, I felt resistance. Then we were through, the wards accepting us. The shadow wraiths slammed against the barrier with inhuman shrieks, unable to follow. "Well," Sarah said, catching her breath, "at least we know the Academy's defenses still work." "Look!" Lilith pointed to the central courtyard. Crystal formations had broken through the stone, but these were different from the ones we'd seen before, darker, almost black, and completely silent. Dead crystals. Sarah examined them carefully. Whatever catastrophe happened here must have killed them. But how? The null stone, I realized. It must have been used here before, which means it's still here somewhere. Lara finished. But so were the Academy's other guardians. The shadow wraiths were just the outer defense. A low rumble echoed through the ruins, and the focus stone grew cold against my skin. Something was stirring in the depths of the Academy, something that had been waiting a very long time for visitors. The sound grew louder, a grinding of stone on stone. From the shadows of the Academy's main hall emerged a figure that made us all freeze. It appeared to be made entirely of animated stone and crystal, its core pulsing with a deep purple light, unlike the corrupted crystals we'd seen before. "A guardian construct," Sarah breathed. "The ancient mages created them to protect their most valuable artifacts." The construct's crystalline eyes fixed on us, scanning. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding granite. "State your purpose, seekers." I stepped forward, keeping Lilith behind me. "We seek the null stone. The crystal corruption has returned." The construct's eyes flared. "The protocol demands a test of worth. The unworthy shall not pass." "What kind of test?" I asked, but the construct was already moving. Its crystalline core pulsed, and suddenly the courtyard was filled with illusions, scenes from the past. I saw Lord Ravenscroft discovering the first crystals, their beautiful but deadly song calling to him. I watched as the infection spread through the miners, transforming them. And finally, I witnessed him sealing the mine, tears streaming down his face as he sacrificed everything to contain the threat. "The crystals show truth," the construct intoned. "What truth do you seek?" Looking at the illusions, at the pain and sacrifice they represented, I understood. "Not power," I said firmly, "not control. We seek to end this, to stop the corruption before it spreads further, to protect those we love." The construct studied me for a long moment. Then, slowly, it stepped aside, revealing a doorway that hadn't been there before. "The path is open," it rumbled. "But beware, the null stone demands sacrifice. All power has its price." "What kind of sacrifice?" Lara asked nervously. "That," the construct replied, "you must discover for yourselves." Chapter 7, The Price of Power. The doorway led to a spiraling staircase that descended deep beneath the Academy. Our footsteps echoed off ancient stones as we made our way down, magical torches flickering to life as we passed. "Stay close, Lilith," I whispered, holding her small hand tightly. The focus stone's pulse had become erratic, as if confused by the magical energies surrounding us. "The air feels strange here," Sarah noted, running her fingers along the wall inscriptions, like the moment before a lightning strike. The staircase opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness above. At its center stood a pedestal, and upon it, floating in a column of purple light, was what could only be the null stone, a perfect sphere of deepest black that seemed to absorb all light around it. "It's singing," Lilith said suddenly, "but it's sad. So sad." Before I could respond, the chamber filled with more illusions, but these were different from the ones above. These showed the Academy in its prime, filled with mages studying crystal magic. Then came the corruption, crystals growing out of control, consuming everything they touched. Finally, we witnessed the desperate use of the null stone, how it had saved the Academy but at a terrible cost. "The sacrifice," Lyra breathed. "All those mages," They gave their life force to power the nullstone, Sarah realized. That's why the crystals here are dead. The stone absorbed all their energy. A voice echoed through the chamber, not the constructs, but something older, deeper. The price remains. Life for life, power for power. Who will pay? I stepped forward, but Sarah grabbed my arm. My lady, no. We don't know what it will take. We don't have a choice. I thought of Ravenscroft Estate, of Silvercrest falling to the crystal corruption. If we don't stop this now... A familiar voice cut through the chamber's silence. Indeed, we don't have a choice. Marcus emerged from the shadows, his crystal-corrupted form even more pronounced than before. Behind him came more crystal-touched followers, including some wearing the uniforms of Ravenscroft guards. The estate has fallen, he announced with cruel satisfaction. The wards finally broke. Soon, all of Ravenscroft will join the crystal consciousness. No, Lilith cried out, but Lyra pulled her back protectively. The nullstone requires sacrifice, Marcus continued. But why destroy when you can transform? Join us, Elara. Let the crystals remake you, as they remade me. I felt the focus stone pulse against my throat, responding to the corrupted crystal energy filling the chamber. But there was something else, too. A whisper from the nullstone itself, barely perceptible beneath the crystal song. You're right about one thing, Marcus, I said, stepping closer to the pedestal. A sacrifice is required, but not the kind you think. The focus stone grew warmer, and suddenly I understood. It wasn't life force the nullstone needed, it was purpose, intent. The previous mages hadn't just given their lives, they'd given their combined will to contain the crystal corruption. Sarah, I called out, not taking my eyes off Marcus. Remember what you taught me about magical resonance? She caught on immediately. The focus stone, it could act as a conduit. Enough. Marcus lunged forward, his crystalline form distorting grotesquely. Take them, but I was already moving. I grabbed the nullstone with one hand and clutched the focus stone with the other. The two artifacts resonated together, creating a harmony that cut through the crystal song like a blade. The sacrifice isn't death, I declared, feeling power surge through me. It's choice. And I choose to end this. Mama, no. Lilith clung to my skirts. The stone, it's hungry, so hungry. I knelt before her, brushing tears from her cheeks. Sometimes we have to make hard choices to protect the ones we love. Remember what your father taught you about duty? Her small face hardened with understanding beyond her years. But I can't lose you, too. Step aside, my lady. Sarah's voice was firm. I'll do it. Sarah, no, think about it, she insisted. You're needed here. Lilith needs you. The estate needs you. I'm just a scholar, but I understand the crystals better than anyone. It has to be me. Before I could protest, she strode toward the nullstone. The purple light intensified, reaching out to her like eager fingers. Sarah, wait, I called out. There has to be another way. She turned back, smiling sadly. There isn't, but I can give you the knowledge you need. She pulled a small journal from her robes and tossed it to me. Everything I've learned about the crystals is in there. Use it well. The chamber's voice spoke again. The offering approaches. Is this your choice? It is, Sarah replied firmly. No, I lunged forward, but Lyra held me back. My lady, look. The purple light had changed, becoming almost gentle as it enveloped Sarah. But something else was happening. The focus stone around my neck had begun to glow with an intensity I'd never seen before. The stones are linked, Lilith whispered in wonder. They're sharing. The chamber filled with resonant power as the nullstone and focus stone connected, creating a bridge of energy. Sarah gasped as the light lifted her off her feet. It's beautiful, she breathed. I can see everything. Marcus and his followers were frozen in place, transfixed by the spectacle before them. The light connecting the nullstone and focus stone grew brighter, filling the chamber with pure, cleansing energy. Sarah's voice echoed strangely, as if coming from everywhere at once. I understand now. The crystals weren't meant to corrupt, they were meant to connect. But something went wrong, twisted their purpose. The purple light began to pulse in rhythm with Sarah's words. Where it touched the crystal-touched followers, their corrupted growths began to crack and fall away. No, Marcus screamed, his crystalline form fracturing. The song. I can't hear the song anymore, because it was never yours to hear. Sarah's voice resonated. The crystals were meant to enhance life, not consume it. And now, there was a flash of blinding light. When my vision cleared, Sarah's physical form was gone, but I could feel her presence within both stones, their energies perfectly balanced. The crystal-touched followers collapsed, their bodies returning to normal. Marcus fell to his knees, human once again, tears streaming down his face. What? What have I done? He whispered. You were used, I told him gently. We all were, but it's over now. The chamber's voice spoke one final time. The balance is restored. The guardian has been chosen. Use this power wisely. Lilith tugged at my sleeve. Mama, I can still hear Sarah. She's in the stones watching over us. I touched the focus stone, feeling its familiar warmth, now tinged with Sarah's essence. She'd given herself not as a sacrifice of death, but as a transformation, becoming part of the very power that would protect us. Let's go home, I said, gathering Lilith close. We have an estate to rebuild. As we climbed the stairs back to the surface, I could have sworn I heard Sarah's laugh echoing through the chamber, joyful and free. Chapter 8. Dangerous Alliances. The return journey to Ravenscroft Estate was markedly different from our desperate flight. The Nullstone, now safely contained in a specially crafted box, pulsed with Sarah's transformed essence. Through the focus stone, I could sometimes hear whispers of her thoughts, guiding us home. Marcus traveled with us, though under Lyra's constant watch. The man who emerged from the crystal corruption was a shadow of his former self, haunted by memories of what he'd done. I can still hear echoes of the song, he admitted one evening by the campfire, but it's different now, like a warning instead of a temptation. The crystals weren't meant to corrupt, I repeated Sarah's revelation. Something twisted their original purpose. Or someone, Lilith added quietly, drawing in the dirt with the stick. The patterns she made looked disturbingly like the crystal formations we'd seen. We were a day's ride from the estate when we met the refugees, former servants and villagers fleeing the crystal corruption. Their news was grim. Lord Darius has returned, an old groundskeeper told us. He claims the crystal outbreak proves you're unfit to manage the estate. He's gathering supporters in Silvercrest. Of course he is, I muttered. He always did have perfect timing. There's more, a kitchen maid added. He's not alone. There's a woman with him, a crystal mage. She says she can control the corruption, use it to make the land more productive. I felt Sarah's presence stir through the focus stone, a warning sensation. Did this mage give her name? Lady Verraine, the maid replied. She wears a black crystal pendant. Marcus's head snapped up. Verraine? She was there at the beginning when the crystals first started spreading. She said she could help us understand them. Lady Verraine. Sarah's voice whispered through the focus stone. She was there during the Academy's fall. I see her now in the old memories. I touched the stone, seeing fragments of the past through Sarah's transformed consciousness. A woman with sharp features and calculating eyes, studying the crystals with dangerous intensity. We need to move faster, I decided. If Verraine is working with Darius, the estate is in more danger than we thought. She'll recognize what happened to me, Marcus warned. She'll know about the Nullstone. We pushed our horses hard, arriving at Ravenscroft Estate just before dawn. The crystal growths had withered and died, leaving behind strange, hollow formations like abandoned insect nests. But there were new problems. Darius's banner flew over the main gate, and armed men patrolled the walls. They're expecting us. Lyra observed grimly. Good. I touched both the focus stone and the Nullstone's container, feeling their combined power. Let's not disappoint them. We approached openly, making no attempt at stealth. The gate guards recognized me immediately, their expressions uncertain. Lady Ravenscroft, one called down. Lord Darius ordered us to. To what? I interrupted. Bar me from my own home, the home my father built, the home I've sworn to protect? The guards shifted uncomfortably. Behind them, I saw a figure in black approaching. Lady Verraine herself, exactly as she appeared in Sarah's memories. Welcome home, Lady Elara, she called out, her voice honey-sweet but cold. We have so much to discuss. Open the gates, I commanded. The guards hesitated, looking between me and Lady Vervain. Do as she says, Vervain smiled. After all, this is still her home. For now, the gates creaked open. I rode in first, Lilith close behind with Lyra, while Marcus hung back, his face hidden beneath a hood. As we entered the courtyard, I saw the changes Darius had already made, his personal guards stationed at every corner, and black crystal formations carefully cultivated in decorative patterns. You've been busy, I noted, dismounting, though I don't recall giving permission for these modifications. Lord Darius felt they would help demonstrate the productive potential of controlled crystal growth, Vervain replied, something you failed to explore despite your family's history with the mines. Through the focus stone, I felt Sarah's presence surge with anger. The black crystals in the courtyard trembled slightly. Yes, I can sense it. Vervain's eyes narrowed, focusing on my neck. You've changed, Lady Elara. The focus stone feels different. Many things have changed, I agreed, including our understanding of what the crystals truly are. Indeed? She glided closer, her black crystal pendant gleaming. And what revelations have you brought back from the Shadow Mountains? Elara. Darius appeared at the top of the main stairs, looking exactly as I remembered, handsome, commanding, and utterly ruthless. I see you've met Lady Vervain. She's been most helpful in maintaining order during your absence. How convenient that you arrived just as the crystal corruption spread, I replied, almost as if you knew it was coming. A flash of something? Fear? Recognition? Crossed Vervain's face. Behind me, Marcus shifted uneasily. We have much to discuss. Darius descended the stairs. Perhaps in private? No, I said firmly. Whatever you have to say can be said here, before witnesses, starting with why you're really here and what you know about the crystal's true purpose. The air grew thick with tension. In my mind, Sarah whispered a warning. Be careful. Vervain knows more than she's showing. Much more. Chapter 9. The Crystal Mage. The name Vervain hung in the air like a poisoned blade. Through the focus stone, I could feel Sarah's agitation growing stronger. We need to reach the estate before Vervain can consolidate her power, I said, studying the map by firelight. If she truly can control the crystals. She can't, Marcus interrupted. Not really. She only thinks she can. The crystals. They use you, make you believe you're in control until it's too late. Lilith sat closer to me, her small face troubled. The black crystal she wears, it sings wrong, like a scream pretending to be music. We made camp in an abandoned watchtower that night, taking turns keeping guard. I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with possibilities. The focus stone grew warm against my skin, and I heard Sarah's voice, faint but clear. The library? Academy records? Vervain? What about them? I whispered. She was there, before the corruption, expelled. Before I could ask more, Lyra's warning cry split the night. Riders approaching. Through the tower's arrow slits, we saw them, a dozen mounted figures, their armor gleaming with crystal growths. At their head rode a woman in black robes, a dark crystal pendant pulsing at her throat. Lady Elara, her voice carried easily in the night air. I am Lady Vervain. Lord Darius sends his regards and an invitation to return home, under proper supervision, of course. How generous, I called back, signaling Lyra to ready our escape route. And what makes him think I need supervision? The crystal outbreak proves otherwise. Vervain's smile was visible even in the darkness. But I can help you control it, harness its power. Together, we could make Ravenscroft greater than ever. The focus stone burned cold, Sarah's warning. Whatever Vervain was offering, it was a trap. Your offer is generous, I called back, buying time as Lyra helped Lilith onto a horse. But I've seen what happens to those who try to control the crystals. Have you? Vervain's voice sharpened. Or have you only seen what others, in their weakness, failed to achieve? The crystals are tools, Lady Elara. Powerful tools that could restore your family's legacy. Marcus stepped forward, throwing back his hood. Like you helped me restore mine, Lady Vervain? The crystal mage's composure cracked for just a moment. Marcus, impossible. The transformation should have been complete. It was reversed, he said, because you lied about what the crystals really are, what they were meant for. Verane's pendant flared with dark energy. Fool, I showed you power beyond imagining, and you threw it away. She raised her hand, and the crystal formations on her soldier's armor began to pulse. Take them. Lord Darius wants the girl alive. The others are expendable. But I was ready. The focus stone and null stone resonated together, Sarah's essence flowing through both. A wave of pure energy rippled outward, causing Verane's black crystal to screech in discord. Impossible, she gasped. That energy. The Academy. You found it, didn't you? The null stone? Run! I shouted to the others, unleashing another pulse that sent Verane's soldiers reeling. Their crystal armor cracked and splintered. We fled into the night, the sound of Verane's fury echoing behind us. But now we knew something crucial. She feared the nullstone, and that fear would be our weapon. The Academy records, Sarah's voice whispered through the focus stone. Find them. They'll prove what she did. Chapter 10. Hidden Talents. The mountain paths leading to the old Academy archives were treacherous, made worse by the pre-dawn darkness. But we couldn't risk waiting for daylight, not with Verane's forces behind us. The records Sarah mentioned must be important, Lyra said as we picked our way through a narrow pass. Did she show you what we're looking for? I touched the focus stone, but Sarah's presence was quiet, conserving energy after our confrontation with Verane. Only fragments. Something about Verane's expulsion from the Academy before the crystal corruption began. Lilith rode before me, unusually silent. Finally, she spoke. The black crystal she wears, it's like the ones from the mine, but changed, twisted. Marcus nodded grimly. She was experimenting with the crystals, trying to alter their natural resonance. I remember now. She called it perfecting them. The Academy archives were housed in a small tower, separate from the main complex we'd visited before. As we approached, I felt both the focus stone and null stone pulse in recognition. There's old magic here, I murmured. Protective wards. Look, Lyra pointed to the entrance. Fresh boot prints marked the dust. Someone had been here recently. Inside, the archive was a maze of shelves and scrolls. Most bore signs of age and neglect, but one section looked recently disturbed. As we searched, Lilith suddenly called out, Mama, here! These feel important. She held up a leather-bound journal, its pages marked with crystal resonance diagrams. The focus stone warmed against my skin as Sarah's presence stirred. Yes, Verane's research, her experiments. But before I could take the journal, a familiar voice cut through the silence. I wondered if you'd come here. Verane stepped from the shadows, her black crystal pendant pulsing with unnatural light. Those records were supposed to be destroyed, just like you should have been destroyed, Marcus. Did you really think I wouldn't protect these records? Verane's voice echoed through the archive. That I wouldn't know the moment someone accessed them? I pushed Lilith behind me, feeling both stones pulse with protective energy. The Academy expelled you. Why? Because they were afraid of progress. She gestured at the journals. I saw the crystal's true potential, not just as focusing tools, but as a means of transformation, of evolution. You corrupted them, Marcus accused, twisted their natural resonance into something destructive. Verane laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. I improved them. The Academy's precious natural resonance was holding us back, but Lord Darius understood. He saw the power we could wield together. And how many died for your improvements? I demanded, thinking of the Academy's fate. Her black crystal flared. Sacrifices are necessary for progress, as you'll soon learn. She raised her hand, dark energy crackling around her fingers. But before she could strike, Lilith stepped forward. Stop, my daughter commanded, her voice ringing with unexpected authority. The crystals in the room, even Verane's pendant, resonated in response. Verane's eyes widened. Impossible! You're just a child. The crystals listened to her, Sarah's voice whispered through the focus stone. Their true nature, you understands. Lilith's eyes glowed with an inner light. You hurt them, made them scream instead of sing. But I can hear their real song. The black crystal at Verane's throat shuddered, its dark resonance wavering as Lilith's natural affinity challenged its corrupted state. Take the journals, I ordered Lyra, seizing our chance. We have what we came for. This isn't over, Veraine snarled, but her voice shook. She backed away, clutching her pendant protectively. Lord Darius will hear of this. As we fled the archive, I held Lilith close, marveling at this newfound power she possessed. Through the focus stone, I felt Sarah's approval and understanding. My daughter wasn't just gifted with crystal magic, she was its true heir, untainted by corruption or ambition, and that made her both our greatest hope and our greatest vulnerability. Chapter 11, Under Siege. Dawn broke over Ravenscroft Estate with an unnatural stillness. From the watchtower, I could see Darius's forces assembling at the edge of the property, far more than I'd expected, their armor gleaming with corrupted crystal formations. They're not just soldiers, Marcus observed grimly. Look at their movements. They're connected somehow, like a hive mind. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence stirred, the black crystal. It binds them to Veraine's will. Lilith stood beside me, her small hand clutching mine. Since the revelation of her power at the archives, she'd grown more serious, more aware of the weight she carried. I can hear them suffering, she whispered. The crystals. And the people wearing them, they're trapped. A rider approached under a flag of truce. It was Lord Darius himself, resplendent in crystal-enhanced armor, Veraine at his side. My dear wife, his voice carried across the courtyard. You've led me on quite a chase. But it ends today. Surrender the estate and the girl, and I'll ensure you're treated with the dignity befitting your station. And if I refuse? Then we'll take them by force, Veraine answered. Your daughter's gift is wasted here. Under my guidance, she could become something extraordinary. I felt Lilith tremble, but her voice was steady. You hurt the crystals, made them into weapons. I'll never help you do that. Veraine's black crystal pulsed angrily. Such potential, wasted on childish sentiments. Lord Darius, shall we demonstrate the true power of progress? At her signal, the crystal-bound soldiers began to advance. But we were ready. The estate's ancient wards, reinforced by the Nullstone's power, sprang to life. Sarah's essence flowed through the defensive matrix, strengthening it further. So be it, I declared, the focus stone warming against my skin. You want a demonstration of power? Let's see how your corrupted crystals fare against their true nature. The siege of Ravenscroft had begun. The first wave broke against our defenses like water on stone. The corrupted crystals in their armor shrieked in discord as they met the pure resonance of our wards. Hold the line, I commanded, channeling power through both stones. Sarah's essence flowed through the estate's ancient defenses, strengthening them. Lilith stood in the central courtyard, her eyes closed in concentration. Around her, the natural crystal formations in the estate's foundations began to sing in harmony, reinforcing our protection. They're trying to breach the east wall. Lyra called from her position. I saw Veraine directing her forces, her black crystal pulsing with dark energy. But something was wrong. The corruption wasn't spreading as easily as before. Lilith's presence was changing the resonance, making it harder for Veraine to maintain control. Your daughter's power grows stronger, Marcus observed, but Veraine won't stop. She'll sacrifice every soldier she has to break through. He was right. Already I could see the toll the corrupted crystals were taking on the soldiers. Some stumbled, their movements becoming erratic as the hive-mind connection wavered. Darius, I called out, look at your men. The crystals are killing them. Is this the progress you wanted? Progress requires sacrifice, he replied, but I saw doubt flicker across his face. Veraine has shown me the future, a future where crystal power makes us invincible. She's shown you lies, Lilith's voice rang out, clear and pure. Let me show you the truth. Before I could stop her, my daughter reached out with her gift. The courtyard erupted with crystal song, not the corrupted screech of Veraine's creations, but the true harmonious resonance the stones were meant to carry. The effect was immediate. Soldiers dropped to their knees as their crystal armor cracked and fell away. Even Veraine's pendant flickered, its dark energy struggling against Lilith's pure connection. But the effort was draining my daughter. I caught her as she swayed, exhausted but triumphant. The real power, she whispered to Darius, isn't in controlling the crystals. It's in listening to them. Chapter 12, The Price of Power. The aftermath of Lilith's display left the courtyard in eerie silence. Broken crystal armor littered the ground, and freed soldiers staggered about in confusion. Through the focus stone, I felt Sarah's presence surge with pride and concern. "She's growing stronger," Sarah whispered, "but Varaine won't let this challenge go unanswered." True to Sarah's warning, Varaine's fury manifested in a wave of dark energy. Her black crystal pendant pulsed with corrupted power, forcing the freed soldiers back under her control. "You think you understand power?" she snarled at Lilith. "Let me show you what real mastery looks like." The air crackled with malevolent energy as Varaine began a complex incantation. Dark crystal formations erupted from the ground, threatening to overwhelm our defenses. "Get Lilith inside," I commanded Lyra, who swept my exhausted daughter into her arms. Marcus stepped forward, his experience with crystal corruption giving him insight. "She's drawing power from the corrupted ley lines beneath the estate, the same ones that fed the mine. Can we stop it?" I asked, channeling power through both stones to reinforce our barriers. "Not alone," Sarah's voice echoed through the focus stone, "but together." Understanding dawned. I called out to the retreating Lyra, "Wait, we need Lilith." Despite her exhaustion, my daughter's eyes sparked with determination. "I can help." We formed a circle, myself with both stones, Lilith with her natural gift, Marcus with his hard-won knowledge of corruption, and even Lyra, whose unwavering loyalty added its own kind of power. Through the focus stone, Sarah's essence joined us. "The ley lines aren't meant to be corrupted," Lilith explained, her voice carrying an authority beyond her years. "They're supposed to flow freely, like rivers of light." "Then let's set them free," I said. Together we began to sing, not with our voices, but with the pure crystal resonance that Lilith had awakened. The focus stone and nullstone amplified our harmony, sending it deep into the earth. Varaine's attack faltered as the ley lines beneath us began to pulse with cleansing energy. Her black crystal screeched in protest as the corruption began to break down. "No!" she screamed. "Lord Darius, we must retreat." The purification. I can't control it, but Darius remained motionless, staring at the spectacle before him. The crystal formations in his armor were cracking, revealing the man beneath the corruption. "The estate," he whispered. "I remember now, before the crystals, before Varaine. I loved this place. The corruption affected your mind," I told him. "Made you forget who you really are." Varaine backed away, her control slipping. "Weak fool, you'd throw away everything we've built?" "Built on lies and death," Darius replied, his voice strengthening. "No more." The black crystal at Varaine's throat pulsed one final time before shattering. The crystal mage screamed, not in pain, but in rage and despair. Dark energy swirled around her as she fled, taking her remaining loyal forces with her. But victory came at a cost. Lilith collapsed, drained by the effort of purifying the ley lines. Marcus swayed on his feet, the remnants of his corruption burning away. Even I felt the strain of channeling so much power. "Rest now," Sarah's voice soothed through the focus stone. "The real work is just beginning." Darius approached cautiously, his armor now free of corruption. "Elara, I don't expect forgiveness, but let me help make this right." I looked at my husband, this man who had been both enemy and victim, and saw the truth of his words. The crystal corruption had twisted many things: loyalty, love, power. Healing those wounds would take time. "First," I said, "help me understand everything. About Varaine, about the crystals, about why this all began." As the sun set over Ravenscroft Estate, we gathered in the great hall to share our stories and plan our next move. Somewhere out there, Varaine was plotting her revenge. But for now, we had achieved something remarkable. We had begun to heal the corruption at its source. And through it all, Lilith slept peacefully, her dreams filled with the true song of the crystals, pure and untainted at last. Chapter 13, The Depths of Power. The days following Varaine's retreat brought both relief and renewed tension to Ravenscroft Estate. While the immediate threat had passed, The deeper mysteries remained unsolved. Darius, now free from crystal corruption, proved an invaluable source of information, though his memories were still fragmented. Varain approached me shortly after the first crystal outbreaks, he explained as we gathered in the library. Maps and documents covered every surface, chronicling the spread of corruption. She claimed to have studied at the academy, said she understood the crystals better than anyone. But she wasn't just studying them, I added, reviewing the recovered journals. She was experimenting, trying to alter their fundamental nature. Lilith sat nearby, still pale from her efforts during the siege, but her eyes bright with interest. The crystals remember her experiments. They hold memories, like the focus stone does with Sarah. Through that very stone, Sarah's presence stirred. The academy archives weren't complete. There's more. Hidden facilities where Varain conducted her real work. Marcus nodded grimly. I remember fragments, underground chambers beneath the academy filled with failed experiments. That's where she first succeeded in corrupting the crystal resonance. And that's where we need to go, I decided. If we're going to stop her permanently, we need to understand exactly what she did and how to counter it. Darius looked troubled. The academy ruins are dangerous, especially the lower levels. The corruption there runs deep, which is precisely why we must go, Lyra interjected. As long as those corrupted chambers exist, they're a resource Varain can draw upon. I touched the Nullstone's container, feeling its steady pulse. With this, and Lilith's natural ability to purify corruption, we might be able to cleanse those chambers completely. Darius stood abruptly. You can't take Lilith there. It's too dangerous. I have to go, our daughter said quietly. The crystals are calling to me. They want to be free. The argument that followed was intense, but brief. In the end, we all knew Lilith was right. Her gift was essential to our mission, but the risks were enormous. We'll need to prepare carefully, I said, ending the debate. Gather supplies, study the academy's layout, and most importantly, find a way to protect Lilith while she works. I can help with that, Marcus offered. My experience with the corruption might let me create protective wards, especially if we combine them with the Nullstone's power. As dawn broke the next day, preparations began in earnest. The library became our command center, with maps of the academy's known layout spread across tables. Sarah's memories, shared through the focus stone, helped fill in crucial details about the underground chambers. The corruption started here, Sarah indicated through my connection with the stone, highlighting a section of the lower levels. Varain's private laboratory. She claimed it was for advanced resonance studies, but she was actually experimenting with crystal mutation. Lilith traced the map with her finger, her expression distant. The crystals down there, they're in so much pain, like broken songs trying to remember their original melody. That's why we need to be extremely careful, Marcus warned. The corruption there is ancient, deeply rooted. It won't be easily purified. Working together, we developed a plan. Marcus and I would create a protective barrier using a combination of the Nullstone's power and traditional wards. Lyra would guard our retreat path, while Darius, still seeking redemption, would monitor the surface for any sign of Varain's return. The key will be maintaining a balance, I explained, demonstrating with both stones. Too much purification power at once could cause a violent reaction in the corrupted crystals. We'll need to work gradually, letting Lilith guide the process. Like healing a wound, my daughter nodded, layer by layer. Over the next few days, we gathered supplies and strengthened our defenses. Marcus worked tirelessly on protective charms, infusing them with traces of purified crystal energy. Lyra drilled the estate guards in new formations, preparing for any surprise attacks. Through it all, I watched Lilith grow more confident in her abilities. She spent hours in the estate's gardens, practicing her gift on smaller, corrupted crystal formations. The transformation was beautiful to witness. Dark, twisted shapes gradually returning to their natural, harmonious state. She's remarkable, Darius observed one evening, watching our daughter work. I was so blind before, seeing only the power that could be extracted from the crystals. I never understood their true nature. None of us did, I admitted, except Lilith. She heard their song from the beginning. Finally, after a week of preparation, we were ready. The night before our expedition, I found Lilith in her room, carefully packing a small bag. "Are you scared?" I asked. She considered the question seriously. "Not of the corrupted crystals. They can't hurt me, they want to be healed. I'm scared of Varain. Her crystal. It's different. It doesn't want to be saved." Her insight chilled me. Through the focus stones, Sarah's presence stirred uneasily. We all knew this mission wasn't just about cleansing the academies. Corruption. It was about understanding our enemy, and perhaps finding a way to stop her permanently. As dawn broke on the day of our expedition, the air felt heavy with anticipation. We gathered in the courtyard, our preparations complete. The focus stone and null stone pulsed in harmony, as if sensing the importance of our mission. "Remember," I addressed our small group, "we're not just going to explore, we're going to cleanse these chambers completely. No trace of corruption can remain for Varain to use." Marcus adjusted the protective charms around Lilith's neck. "These should help shield you from the worst of the corrupted resonance. But don't push yourself too hard." "I won't," she promised, though her determined expression reminded me so much of myself. The journey to the academy ruins was tense but uneventful. The morning mist clung to the ground, giving the abandoned buildings an ethereal quality. Through the focus stone, Sarah guided us to a hidden entrance she remembered from her time there. "The experimental chambers are deep below," she explained. "Varain chose this location because the natural crystal formations were particularly strong here, perfect for her corruption studies." As we descended, the air grew thick with ancient power. The walls were lined with corrupted crystal growths, their dark resonance making Marcus visibly uncomfortable. Even I could feel their discordant energy trying to interfere with the focus stone's connection to Sarah. But Lilith walked confidently, seemingly unaffected. "They're like layers," she observed, touching a wall carefully. "The corruption goes deep, but underneath. The original crystal song is still there, waiting." The deeper we went, the more evidence we found of Varain's experiments. Laboratory equipment lay scattered about, notes and diagrams covered in years of dust. Marcus stopped to examine some of them. These formulas. She wasn't just trying to corrupt the crystals. She was trying to merge with them somehow, to become one with their power. That explains her pendant, I realized. It's not just a tool, it's part of her now. Lilith's gasp drew our attention. We'd reached what appeared to be the main chamber, and the sight was horrifying. Massive crystal formations filled the space, their natural beauty twisted into something grotesque. At the center stood what could only be described as an altar, dark crystal veins spreading out from it like corrupt roots. "This is where it began," Sarah's voice whispered through the focus stone, "where she first succeeded in corrupting the pure resonance, where everything changed." Lilith stepped forward, her face set with determination. "Then this is where we'll begin to make it right." The chamber's corrupted crystals pulsed with malevolent energy as Lilith began her work. Marcus and I established a protective circle around her, combining the nullstone's purifying power with traditional wards. Through the focus stone, Sarah's essence helped stabilize the delicate balance. "Start with the outer formations," I guided. "Work your way inward gradually." Lilith nodded, raising her hands. The air filled with crystal song, a haunting melody of corruption slowly transforming into pure resonance. The dark formations began to crack, revealing glimpses of their original structure beneath. "There's something else here," Lilith said suddenly, her voice strained. "Not just corruption, records, memories, trapped in the crystal matrix." Marcus stepped closer, examining the changing formations. Varain's experiments. The crystals preserved them somehow. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence surged with recognition. Of course, she wasn't just corrupting them, she was using them to store information. That's why she was so desperate to protect this place. As the purification spread, images began to form in the crystal surfaces, flickering scenes of experiments, formulas, and devastating failures. We watched in horror as the true extent of Varain's work revealed itself. She was trying to merge crystal power directly with human consciousness, Marcus realized, creating a network of corrupted minds all connected through the crystal matrix. "Like the soldiers during the siege," I said, "but this was just the beginning." Lilith swayed with effort, but her determination never wavered. The crystals want to show us more. They've been holding these memories, waiting for someone who could see them properly. The chamber's transformation continued, each purified crystal adding its voice to the growing harmony. But the strain on Lilith was becoming evident. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked to maintain the delicate balance between purification and preservation. "We should rest," I suggested, seeing her fatigue. But she shook her head, eyes fixed on the central altar. "Not yet. We're close to something important." Something Varaine tried to hide. The cleansing ritual began at dawn. Lilith stood at the center of the corrupted chamber, surrounded by protective wards. The focus stone and null stone pulsed in perfect harmony as I channeled their power to support my daughter's natural abilities. "Remember," Marcus cautioned, "work slowly. Let the purification spread naturally." Lilith nodded, closing her eyes in concentration. Her gift reached out to the corrupted crystals, seeking their original resonance beneath layers of darkness. The chamber filled with an otherworldly song, discordant at first, but gradually shifting toward harmony. "It's working," Sarah whispered through the focus stone. "The original matrix is responding." Hour by hour, the corruption retreated. Dark crystal formations cracked and fell away, revealing pure structures beneath. But the process was draining. Sweat beaded on Lilith's forehead as she worked to maintain the delicate balance. "We should rest," I suggested, seeing her fatigue. But she shook her head. "Not yet. There's something else here, something hidden." As the last traces of corruption faded from the altar, a hidden compartment revealed itself. Inside lay a journal, its pages filled with Varaine's earliest writings. "This is it," Marcus breathed, scanning the text. "Her original research, before the corruption took hold. These formulas, they're pure crystal theory, which means they might show us how to reverse what she's done," I realized. The chamber was now completely cleansed, its crystal formations singing with their natural resonance. Lilith swayed with exhaustion but smiled triumphantly. "The song is whole again," she murmured, before collapsing into my arms. We emerged from the academy, as sunset painted the sky in brilliant colors. The underground chambers were purified, their power restored to its original purpose. And with Varaine's journal, we finally had a chance to understand, and perhaps counter, her corrupted magic. But as we made our way home, Sarah's warning echoed through the focus stone. "She'll feel this loss. Be ready. The real battle is still to come." Chapter 14, Return to Power. Varaine's journal proved to be both illuminating and disturbing. As we studied its contents back at Ravenscroft Estate, the true scope of her ambitions became clear. "These early experiments," Marcus explained, pointing to complex crystal resonance diagrams, "they weren't just about corruption. She was trying to create a network of consciousness, using the crystals as conduits. Like what she did with the soldiers during the siege," I noted, "but on a much larger scale." Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence stirred uneasily. The Academy Council would never have approved such research. That's why she went underground, quite literally. Lilith sat nearby, fully recovered from our expedition to the Academy chambers. She traced the crystal formations illustrated in the journal with a thoughtful expression. "The crystals weren't meant to connect minds like that," she said. "They can hold memories, share feelings, but forcing them to control people, it hurts them." Darius, who had been quietly reviewing the journal's later entries, looked troubled. "I remember now. When she first approached me, Varaine spoke of unity, a world where crystal power would bind humanity together in perfect harmony. I was fool enough to believe her. You weren't the only one," Marcus reminded him. "Many at the Academy were seduced by her vision." The journal's final pages revealed Varaine's ultimate goal, not just to control minds through corrupted crystals, but to transform herself into something beyond human. The black crystal pendant she wore wasn't just a tool. It was the first step in her metamorphosis. That's why the corruption affects her differently, I realized. She's not just using the crystals, she's becoming one with them. "And that's why she's so dangerous," Lyra added. "She's not just fighting for power anymore. She's fighting for her very existence." A knock at the library door interrupted our study. Lyra entered, her expression grave. "Riders approaching from the north," she reported. "They bear the crystal mage insignia." Not Varane's forces, Marcus observed, studying the journal. These would be from the Crystal Mage Council. They must have felt the disturbance when we cleansed the Academy chambers. I shared a look with Darius. The Council's involvement complicated matters. While they opposed Varane's corruption, they were also deeply suspicious of any unauthorized crystal manipulation. They'll want to know everything, Sarah warned through the focus stone. About Lilith's gift, the cleansing, the journal. We can't tell them everything, I decided. Not until we understand the full implications of what we've discovered. Lilith touched my arm gently. The crystals say we can trust some of them. Not all, but some. They remember who stayed pure when Varane first began her work. We quickly organized our findings, hiding the most sensitive parts of the journal. Darius volunteered to meet the council representatives first. His status as a reformed crystal corruption victim might help ease tensions. The delegation consisted of 3 senior mages, led by an elderly woman named Magistra Helena. Her sharp eyes took in everything as she entered the library, lingering particularly on Lilith. We felt the purification wave, she stated without preamble, stronger than anything we've recorded since the corruption began. And now we find Lord Darius here, apparently freed from Varane's influence. My daughter has a gift, I explained carefully. She can communicate with crystals in their pure state, help them resist corruption. Helena's eyebrows rose. Show me. Lilith stepped forward confidently, approaching a small, corrupted crystal formation we'd kept for study. As we watched, she reached out both physically and with her gift. The crystal's dark resonance gradually transformed into pure, harmonious song. The council mages exchanged meaningful looks. Remarkable, Helena breathed, but dangerous. Varane will not ignore such a threat to her power. We know, I said grimly. That's why we've been preparing. The Academy chambers were just the beginning. Helena studied us all carefully before speaking again. The council has been tracking Varane's movements. She's gathering forces in the Northern Territories, experimenting with new forms of corruption. What you've accomplished here, it changes everything. Will the council help us? Marcus asked. Some will, Helena replied, glancing at her companions. Others remain hesitant. But I've seen enough to know where I stand. Helena's support brought unexpected resources. Within days, council mages began arriving at Ravenscroft Estate, each bringing knowledge and artifacts that could help us understand Varane's corruption and how to fight it. The council has been collecting evidence for years, Helena explained, showing us a series of crystal recordings, tracking the spread of corruption, documenting its effects. But until now, we had no way to reverse it. Through the focus stone, Sarah helped us interpret the council's findings. The corruption isn't just spreading randomly. Look at the pattern. It's forming a network, just like in Varane's journal. A network that's almost complete, Marcus added grimly. The Northern Territories were the final piece she needed. Lilith, who had been quietly studying the crystal recordings, suddenly spoke up. She's building something bigger than an army, the crystals. They're showing me images of a ritual, something that would connect all the corrupted formations at once. The implications were staggering. If Varane succeeded in linking all her corrupted crystal networks, she could potentially control thousands of minds simultaneously. That's why she retreated north, Darius realized. The crystal formations there are ancient and powerful, perfect for amplifying her corruption. Then that's where we need to go, I decided, but this time we won't be working alone. Helena nodded approvingly. The council will provide what support we can, but be warned, not all members share my view. Some fear that stopping Varane might require destroying the crystal networks entirely. That won't be necessary, Lilith said confidently. The crystals don't want to be corrupted. They'll help us if we let them. As we began planning our northern expedition, I felt both hope and trepidation. With the council's support and our growing understanding of Varane's work, we had a real chance of stopping her. But the stakes were higher than ever. She'll be expecting us, Lyra warned, and she'll have had time to prepare. Good, I replied, touching both the focus stone and null stone, because this time, so have we. As evening fell, Helena shared more troubling news from the Council's intelligence network. Varaine has been experimenting with a new form of crystal fusion, she explained, unrolling a map marked with ominous black dots. Each point represents a major corruption node when activated together. They'll create a resonance web powerful enough to corrupt every natural crystal formation in the Northern Territories, Marcus finished, his face pale. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence surged with alarm. The strain on the crystal matrix would be catastrophic. It could shatter the natural balance completely. Lilith, who had been quietly communing with a pure crystal formation, suddenly spoke up. The crystals are showing me something, a weakness in her plan. We gathered around as she explained. The corruption nodes, they're like chains, each one connected to the next. But if we can break even one link at the right moment, the entire network could collapse, Helena realized. But timing would be crucial, and getting close enough to any of these nodes while Varaine's forces are gathering. We'll need a diversion, Lyra suggested. Something to draw her attention away from whichever node we target. Darius studied the map intently. The eastern node is the most vulnerable. It's newer than the others, the corruption less entrenched. And I know the terrain. There are hidden approaches Varaine may have overlooked. It's still a massive risk, I cautioned. If we fail. If we don't try, Marcus interrupted, Varaine wins by default. And everything we've accomplished, everything Lilith has healed, will be undone. The truth of his words hung heavy in the air. We had come too far to retreat now. The cleansing of the Academy chambers had proven what was possible. Now we had to take that success and multiply it, even in the face of overwhelming odds. We'll need every advantage, Helena declared. I'll return to the council tonight, gather what support I can. But be prepared. We may have less time than we think. As our allies dispersed to begin preparations, I found Lilith standing by a window, her expression thoughtful. The crystals are afraid, she said softly, but they're also ready. They want to fight back. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders, just like us. As night fell over Ravenscroft Estate, final preparations were underway. Council mages worked alongside our own people, creating protective wards and strengthening our defenses. The focus stone and nullstone hummed with anticipation, their energies perfectly aligned. The eastern node will be our target, I confirmed to the gathered war council. Darius will lead the advance team, using his knowledge of the terrain. Lyra's forces will create a diversion to the north, drawing Varaine's attention. And I'll coordinate the council mages, Helena added. We'll maintain a barrier against corruption while Lilith works. My daughter sat quietly, absorbing the details of our plan. Through our growing bond, I could sense both her determination and her concern. What troubles you? I asked when the others had dispersed. The crystals are showing me possibilities, she replied. Some paths lead to victory, but others. She shuddered. If Varaine completes her ritual before we can stop her, the corruption will become permanent. The crystal song will be silenced forever. Marcus, who had lingered nearby, spoke up. Then we won't let that happen. Everything we've learned, everything we've accomplished, has led to this moment. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence offered reassurance. The crystal matrix itself fights against Varaine's corruption. With Lilith's gift and our combined strength, we have a real chance. As dawn approached, I found myself in the crystal garden, seeking clarity. The pure formations sang softly, their resonance strengthened by Lilith's recent work. They reminded me how far we'd come from that first morning when I'd awakened in this world, lost and confused. Having doubts? Darius asked, joining me. Remembering, I corrected. Everything that brought us here. The choices we made, the price we paid. He nodded, understanding. Whatever happens tomorrow, know that you've already accomplished something remarkable. You've given hope back to those who had lost it, including me. The first light of dawn touched the crystal formations, sending rainbow refractions dancing across the garden. It was time. Ready? I asked as our forces assembled. Lilith took my hand, her grip strong and sure. Together, she said simply. And so we set out toward whatever fate awaited us in the Northern Territories. The next chapter of our story would be written in crystal song and shadow, in courage and sacrifice, in the eternal dance between corruption and redemption. Chapter 15, Turning Point. The journey north took its toll. Despite the Council's protective wards, the corrupted crystal formations grew denser and more aggressive with each passing mile. Even Lilith struggled to maintain her connection with the pure resonance. "The corruption is different here," she observed as we made camp on the fourth night. "More deliberate, like it's been shaped with purpose." Helena nodded grimly. Veraine has had months to strengthen her hold on these territories. Every crystal formation has been carefully corrupted to serve her network. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence felt strained. The natural matrix is barely holding. "If she completes her ritual—" "She won't," I interrupted, though my confidence wavered as I studied our maps. The eastern node, our target, was still 2 days' journey away, and our scouts reported increased enemy activity in the region. Marcus joined us by the fire, his expression troubled. The Council's seers report unusual crystal activity to the west. Veraine may be accelerating her plans. Or she knows we're coming, Lyra added. My scouts found traces of corrupted crystal sentinels along our route, sophisticated ones. Darius, who had been quietly studying Veraine's journal, suddenly looked up. There's something here in her early notes about crystal resonance patterns and their relationship to lunar phases. The new moon, Helena realized. It's in 3 days, the perfect time to attempt a major corruption ritual when natural crystal resonance is at its weakest. The implications hit hard. We weren't just racing against Veraine's forces. We were racing against time itself. Then we need to move faster, I decided, even if it means taking greater risks. Lilith touched my arm gently. The crystals are showing me something, a hidden path through the old mining tunnels. It's dangerous, but it could get us to the eastern node before the new moon, Darius finished. I remember those tunnels. They're treacherous, but they're also the last place Veraine would expect us to go. The mining tunnels were a maze of darkness and corrupted crystal formations. Our reduced force moved carefully, guided by Darius's memories and Lilith's crystal sense. The Council mages maintained a barrier of pure resonance around us, but the strain showed on their faces. The corruption is trying to get through, Helena warned. It's almost conscious here. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence confirmed our fears. Veraine has bound these tunnels to her will. Every crystal formation is an extension of her consciousness. We passed abandoned mining equipment, its metal surfaces crusted with corrupted crystal growth. Lilith stopped suddenly, placing her hand against a wall. "There were people here," she whispered. "The crystals remember them. They tried to fight the corruption, but they became part of it," Darius finished grimly. "I remember now. Veraine used the miners as her first test subjects, binding them to the crystal matrix." Marcus studied the formations with growing concern. "These patterns, they're like nothing in her journal. She's evolved her techniques far beyond what we understood." A distant rumble echoed through the tunnels. Lyra's scouts reported back. Veraine's forces were indeed moving, but not toward our diversion. "She's gathering them at the ritual site," Lyra explained. "All of them. Whatever she's planning, it's happening soon." "Then we're running out of time," I said. "How much further to the eastern node?" "These tunnels should lead us directly beneath it," Darius replied. "But the final approach—" He didn't need to finish. We could all feel the increasing pressure of corruption, the way it pressed against our protective barriers with malevolent intelligence. "The crystals want to help," Lilith insisted. "Even corrupted, part of them remembers their true nature. If I can reach them." "It's too dangerous," I started to protest, but Helena interrupted. "She's right. The corruption may be strong here, but so is the original matrix. If we can tap into that..." Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence surged with sudden insight. "The miners' memories, they're still here, preserved in the crystal matrix. If we can access them, we might find another way to the node," Marcus finished. "One Veraine hasn't considered." Using the nullstone's power to shield her, Lilith pressed her hands against the corrupted crystal wall. The formations pulsed with sickly light, but beneath that, a fainter resonance emerged, the original song of the mines. "I can see them," she whispered. "The miners. Their memories are like echoes in the crystal. They knew these tunnels better than anyone. Through the focus stone, Sarah helped interpret the ancient memories. There was a secondary shaft, used for emergencies. It led directly to the surface near where the eastern node now stands. "Can you find it?" I asked Lilith. She nodded, eyes still closed in concentration. "The crystals remember. But there's something else. The miners, they discovered something before Varain came. Something that scared them." Helena and Marcus exchanged worried glances. What did they find? "A chamber," Lilith continued, "deep beneath the node. Natural crystal formations, but different, older, more powerful. That's why Varain chose this place. She needed their power for her ritual." Darius studied our maps with renewed interest. "If we can reach that chamber, we might be able to disrupt her entire network from below, or trigger a catastrophic collapse that kills us all," Lyra pointed out pragmatically. "The crystals will help us," Lilith insisted. "They remember how to sing properly. They want to be free." A distant tremor shook the tunnels, and our protective barrier flickered. Helena's face was drawn with strain. "Whatever we decide, it must be soon," she warned. "The corruption grows stronger by the hour." I looked at each of our companions in turn, brave, determined, perhaps a little desperate. We had come so far, risked so much. Now everything hinged on one final choice. "Show us the way," I told Lilith. "We'll deal with whatever we find." She smiled, a flash of courage in the crystal-lit darkness. "This way. The miners left markers, if you know how to read them." The ancient emergency shaft was barely wide enough for us to pass single file. Crystal formations lined the walls, their corrupted resonance a constant pressure against our barriers. But beneath that darkness, I could sense something else, an older, deeper power. "We're getting close," Lilith whispered. "The chamber the miners found. It's just ahead." Helena's voice was strained. "The corruption is different here, almost hesitant." "Because it can't fully penetrate," Sarah explained through the focus stone. "The ancient crystals resist Varain's influence naturally." The tunnel opened suddenly into a vast chamber that took our breath away. Massive crystal columns rose from floor to ceiling, their surfaces etched with patterns I'd never seen before. Despite the corruption creeping along the edges, their cores remained pure, pulsing with internal light. "This is what the miners found," Darius breathed. "No wonder Varain wanted this place." Marcus approached one of the columns carefully. "These markings, they're not just decorative. They're some kind of crystal script, far older than anything in our records." Lilith moved to the center of the chamber, her expression distant as she communed with the ancient formations. "They're telling me their story. This place. It was a nexus where the first crystal mages learned to sing with the earth itself. And now Varain's using that power to fuel her corruption," Helena said grimly. "The eastern node draws directly from this chamber's energy." Another tremor shook the cavern, stronger than before. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence surged with alarm. "The ritual, she's starting early. The corruption is accelerating. Then we have no choice," I decided. "Lilith, can you reach these ancient crystals? Use their power to disrupt the node above?" She nodded slowly. "But I'll need help, all of you. The song is complex, and fighting the corruption will take everything we have." As we formed a circle around her, I felt the weight of the moment. Everything we'd done, everything we'd learned, had led us here. In this ancient chamber, beneath the corrupted earth, we would either turn the tide or lose everything. "Together," I said, taking Lilith's hand. The crystal song began. The ancient crystal song filled the chamber, a harmony of voices and pure resonance that fought against Varain's corruption. Lilith stood at the center, channeling power through the nullstone, while Helena and the council mages maintained our protective barrier. "The node above is responding," Marcus called out. "The corruption patterns are destabilizing." Through the focus stone, Sarah guided our efforts. "Focus on the central columns. Their original resonance is still intact. Use it to amplify Lilith's power." But Varain wasn't going to let go easily. Dark energy poured down from above, trying to overwhelm our circle. The corrupted crystals along the chamber walls pulsed with malevolent purpose. "She knows we're here," Darius warned. "The entire network is reacting." Lilith's voice rose above the chaos, singing in the ancient crystal language she learned from the formations. The massive columns began to pulse in response, their internal light growing stronger. "The original matrix," Helena gasped. "It's awakening." The chamber trembled as two powers clashed, Varaine's corruption against the ancient crystal song. Through our joined hands, I could feel Lilith drawing strength from all of us, weaving our energies into something greater. "Look!" Lyra pointed upward. Through cracks in the ceiling, we could see the eastern node's corrupted light flickering, weakening. But victory came at a cost. The strain on Lilith was enormous, and even with our combined strength, I could feel her faltering. "Hold on," I urged, pouring everything I had into supporting her. "We're almost there." In that moment of crisis, something extraordinary happened. The ancient crystal columns, responding to Lilith's song, began to sing on their own. Their pure resonance filled the chamber, pushing back the corruption not with force, but with harmony. "The original song," Sarah whispered through the focus stone. "They remember." With one final surge of power, the ancient matrix fully awakened. Pure crystal energy shot upward through the rock, striking the eastern node directly. Above us, we heard the sound of shattering crystal as Varaine's corruption broke. The chamber fell silent. Lilith swayed but remained standing, supported by our circle. "We did it," she breathed. "The node. It's free." Through our various connections, magical and emotional, we could feel the ripple effects spreading through Varaine's network. The eastern node's failure had created a cascade, weakening corruption throughout the region. "It's not over," Helena cautioned as we recovered, "but we've struck a decisive blow. Varaine's ritual cannot succeed without this node. And we've done more than that," Marcus added, studying the ancient columns with wonder. "We've rediscovered something thought lost, the original crystal song." As we prepared to leave the chamber, I looked at my daughter with pride. She had grown so much, become so strong. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together. "Ready?" I asked. Lilith nodded, her eyes bright with purpose. "Ready. The crystals say this is just the beginning." Chapter 16. The storm breaks. The destruction of the eastern node sent shockwaves through Varaine's network. As we emerged from the ancient chamber, reports began flowing in through Helena's crystal communications. "Corruption patterns are destabilizing across the northern territories," she announced. "The network is fragmenting." But our victory had come at a price. Varaine's response was swift and terrible. Dark storm clouds gathered overhead, charged with corrupted crystal energy. "She's mobilizing everything she has left," Darius warned. "Every corrupted soldier, every twisted formation, she'll throw it all at us now." Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence was tense. The remaining nodes are surging with power. She's trying to compensate for the loss, forcing them to channel more energy than they can safely handle. Lilith, still recovering from the strain of awakening the ancient matrix, touched a nearby crystal formation. "They're screaming," she whispered. "The corrupted crystals, she's hurting them, pushing them beyond their limits." Our defensive position around the eastern node was strong, but Varaine's forces approached from multiple directions. Lyra's scouts reported massive troop movements, all converging on our location. "She knows she can't complete the ritual without this node," Marcus explained, "but she might try to destroy it completely rather than let us hold it. Then we defend it," I decided. "Helena, can the council mages maintain a barrier around the node?" She nodded grimly. "For a time. But if she commits all her remaining power to the assault—" "We'll have help," Lilith interrupted. "The ancient chamber below, its power is still awakening. The original matrix is spreading, strengthening the pure crystals in the area." As if to confirm her words, we could see veins of clear, uncorrupted crystal beginning to emerge through the ground around us, their song a counterpoint to the approaching storm. "Then we make our stand here," I declared, "where the old power meets the new." The storm intensified as Varaine's forces approached. Corrupted crystal formations erupted from the ground, their dark energy clashing with the pure resonance emanating from the ancient chamber below. 3 waves, Lyra reported, returning from her scouting mission. "The first is mostly corrupted soldiers, former miners and villagers. The second consists of crystal constructs. And the third—" She hesitated. "What is it?" I pressed. "Elite crystal mages. Those who willingly joined Varain. They're using some kind of new corruption technique we haven't seen before. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence flickered with concern. The remaining nodes are becoming unstable. If they continue channeling this much power, they'll shatter, Marcus finished, taking half the northern territories with them. Lilith, who had been communing with the ancient matrix, suddenly opened her eyes. We can't let that happen. The crystals are showing me. If the nodes shatter, the corruption will become permanent. The land will never heal. Helena gathered the council mages, their faces grim but determined. We'll split our forces. Half to maintain the barrier around this node, half to counter their crystal mages. And what about Varain herself? Darius asked. She won't stay back while we hold this position. I touched both the nullstone and focus stone, feeling their combined power. She'll come for Lilith. The ancient chamber's awakening threatens everything she's built. Then we prepare a welcome, Lyra suggested, a dangerous glint in her eye. The miners' tunnels run throughout this area. We can use them to our advantage. The first wave of corrupted soldiers appeared on the horizon, their movements jerky and unnatural. Behind them, crystal constructs rose like dark mountains against the storm-racked sky. Whatever happens, I addressed our gathered forces. Remember what we're fighting for. Not just to stop Varain, but to heal this land. To restore what was corrupted and make it sing again. Lilith took my hand. Her other palm pressed against a pure crystal formation. The ancient matrix is with us. Can you feel it? I could. Beneath our feet, throughout the surrounding area, the original crystal song was growing stronger, pushing back against Varain's darkness. The battle for the northern territories was about to begin. The battle erupted with terrifying force. The first wave of corrupted soldiers crashed against our defenses, their crystallized bodies shattering against the pure resonance barrier. But for each one that fell, 2 more took their place. Hold the line, Helena commanded as council mages reinforced the shields. Don't let them reach the node. Through the focus stone, Sarah helped coordinate our defense, identifying weak points before they could form. But the strain on our forces was immense. The crystal constructs are moving into position, Lyra warned. They're different from before, more organized. She was right. The massive crystalline beings moved with disturbing precision, forming patterns that seemed designed to disrupt our defensive resonance. Varain's controlling them directly now, Marcus realized. She's learned from our previous encounters. Lilith, working with a group of pure crystal formations, suddenly tensed. Something's wrong. The corruption, it's changing. We watched in horror as the fallen corrupted soldiers began to merge, their shattered forms combining into larger, more dangerous configurations. The crystal constructs pulsed with dark energy, feeding the transformation. She's adapting, Darius growled, using our defenses against us. But we had our own surprises. The ancient matrix beneath our feet continued to spread, pure crystal veins emerging to strengthen our position. When the second wave hit, they found our defenses had evolved as well. Now, I commanded, and Lilith began a new song, one that resonated with the ancient chamber below. The pure crystals responded, their song harmonizing with our barriers in ways Varain couldn't have predicted. The third wave is approaching, Helena warned, her elite mages. Before she could finish, a massive surge of corrupted energy tore through the storm clouds above. At its center, a familiar figure descended. Varain, I breathed. She had changed since our last encounter. Her body was now half-crystallized, corrupted formations growing from her flesh like armor. Her eyes blazed with dark power. You've ruined everything, her voice echoed across the battlefield. But what you've awakened, I can use that too. Varain descended onto the battlefield, her corrupted crystal armor pulsing with dark energy. The elite mages moved to flank her, their combined power creating distortions in the very air around them. The ancient matrix, she called out, her voice unnaturally resonant. Did you think you were the first to discover it? I've spent years studying its secrets. She thrust her crystallized arm toward the ground, and the corruption began to seep into the pure crystal veins we'd established. But something unexpected happened. The ancient resonance didn't yield. The original song is stronger than your corruption, Lilith declared, stepping forward. These crystals remember who they truly are. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence surged with sudden understanding. The ancient chamber, it's not just powering our defenses. It's teaching the crystals how to resist. Varane's face contorted with rage. Her elite mages launched a coordinated attack, their corrupted energy crashing against our barriers. Helena and the council mages strained to hold the line. "Darius," I called out, "the tunnels now." On cue, carefully placed charges detonated throughout the old mining network beneath Varane's forces. The ground collapsed under several of her crystal constructs, disrupting their formation. "You've learned nothing," Varane snarled. "The corruption adapts. It grows stronger," but I could see the strain in her partially crystallized form. The loss of the eastern node had weakened her more than she wanted to admit. "No," I countered. "You're the one who never learned." The crystals were never meant to be controlled, only harmonized with. As if in response, the ancient matrix pulsed with renewed power. Pure crystal formations erupted around us, their song merging with Lilith's voice in a symphony of uncorrupted resonance. The battle reached its crescendo, darkness against light, corruption against purity. And in the center of it all, two forces of nature prepared to clash. Varane launched herself at our position, her corrupted crystal armor clashing against our pure resonance barrier. The impact sent shockwaves across the battlefield, destabilizing both sides' formations. "The ancient matrix responds to harmony, not force," Lilith called out, her voice carrying the power of the original song. "You never understood that." Through the focus stone, Sarah helped us coordinate a complex defense. Pure crystal formations rose to meet Varane's attacks, not fighting against her corruption, but transforming it, returning it to its original state. "Impossible," Varane snarled as her elite mages began to falter. "The corruption cannot be reversed," but we could all see it happening. Where the ancient matrix's power touched corrupted crystals, they began to remember their true nature. The dark energy that had twisted them for so long started to fade. It was never about control, I told her, stepping forward with the nullstone raised. The crystals are living things. They need to be free to sing their own song. Varane's partially crystallized form began to crack as the ancient resonance worked its way through her defenses. Her elite mages, seeing their leader weakening, started to retreat. "No," she screamed, drawing on the remaining node's power in desperation. "I won't let everything I've built be destroyed." But that final surge of power proved too much. The corrupted crystals growing from her body shattered, unable to contain the massive energy she was channeling. The backlash rippled through her entire network. "The nodes," Helena warned, "they're collapsing." Lilith acted instantly, directing the ancient matrix's power upward. Pure crystal veins shot into the sky, intercepting the cascade of corrupted energy before it could devastate the northern territories. When the dust settled, Varane lay defeated, her body more human than crystal now. The storm clouds above dissipated, revealing a sky clearer than we'd seen in months. "It's over," Darius said quietly, helping me to my feet. But Lilith shook her head, still connected to the ancient matrix. "Not over," she corrected. "Beginning. The crystals remember now. They'll help us heal the land." Looking across the battlefield, I could see she was right. Pure crystal formations were already emerging through the corrupted ground, their song echoing with promise and renewal. The storm had broken, but the real work of restoration was just beginning. Chapter 17, Final Confrontation. The aftermath of Varane's defeat left us little time to rest. While her corrupted network had been broken, Darius was making his final move against the estate. "His forces are gathering at the western border," Lyra reported, her scouts having just returned. "He's brought mercenaries, lots of them." Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence was troubled. "The timing isn't coincidental. He waited until after we dealt with Varane, knowing we'd be weakened. But he doesn't know about the ancient matrix," Lilith pointed out, her hand resting on a newly emerged pure crystal formation. "The land itself is helping us heal." Helena studied our defensive positions with a critical eye. "Our forces are stretched thin. The council mages need time to recover after the battle with Varain. And Darius knows it, Marcus added grimly. His spies would have reported everything. I touched the nullstone, feeling its connection to the pure crystals that now dotted our territory. Then we use what he doesn't expect. Lilith, can you show them? My daughter nodded, moving to the center of our war room. Using the ancient matrix's power, she created a crystalline map of the estate, showing how the pure formations had spread throughout our lands. The original song is establishing new patterns, she explained. Natural defenses that Darius won't understand. But will it be enough? Darius asked the question we were all thinking. I looked at each of my trusted allies, battle-worn but determined. It has to be. This ends here, one way or another. Darius's forces appeared on the horizon at dawn, their numbers even greater than Lyra's scouts had reported. Mercenary banners flew alongside his personal standard, and siege equipment rolled ominously behind their lines. He's brought enough men to take 3 estates, Helena observed grimly. The council won't be able to intervene officially. He's technically within his rights as the original lord. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence was analytical. He's arranged his forces in a classic siege pattern, but look, there are gaps in his formation. Intentional gaps, Marcus noted. He's trying to bait us into making a mistake. Lilith, who had been quiet until now, suddenly straightened. The ancient matrix is showing me something. The pure crystals, they're forming new patterns beneath his army's position. I studied the crystalline map she had created. Sure enough, veins of uncorrupted crystal were spreading in intricate formations, following the natural energy lines of the land. Can we use this? I asked. Yes, Lilith replied confidently. The original song is stronger here now, after Varain's defeat. If we can coordinate with the Matrix, we might be able to disrupt his entire battle plan, Helena finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. Lyra's scouts reported movement in Darius's lines. He's sending a messenger, probably to demand surrender. Then we use this time to prepare, I decided. Helena, position the council mages where they can best amplify the Matrix's power. Marcus, I need you to analyze those formations, find their weak points. And me? Lilith asked, her young face set with determination. I touched her shoulder gently. You're key. The ancient Matrix responds to you in ways it never did to Varain. When the time comes, you'll know what to do. The messenger approached our gates, carrying Darius's terms of surrender. But what he didn't know was that we were already implementing our own plan, one that would use the very ground beneath his army against him. The messenger delivered Darius's terms, complete surrender of the estate and all its assets, in exchange for our lives. His arrogance was evident in every word. He still thinks this is about property and power, I said after dismissing the messenger. He has no idea what we've discovered here. Through the focus stone, Sarah confirmed our preparations were ready. The ancient matrix has spread throughout the valley. The pure crystals are responding to Lilith's guidance. We watched as Darius's army began to move into position. His mercenaries were well trained, their formations precise. But they were about to face something none of them had ever encountered. Now, I commanded softly. Lilith began to sing, her voice carrying the original crystal song. The pure formations we'd carefully positioned responded instantly, their resonance rippling through the ground beneath Darius's forces. Look, Helena pointed, the siege equipment. The heavy machines were sinking into suddenly unstable ground, their wheels caught in crystalline formations that seemed to grow before our eyes. Confusion spread through the mercenary ranks as the very earth beneath them began to shift and change. He's responding, Marcus warned. His center column is advancing, but this was exactly what we'd planned for. As Darius's main force pushed forward, they found themselves channeled into precise positions by the emerging crystal formations. They're in the maze, Lyra confirmed with satisfaction, just like we planned. The ancient matrix's power continued to grow. Pure crystal veins, creating an ever-shifting labyrinth that separated and confused Darius's forces. His carefully planned siege was falling into beautiful chaos. And then, at the heart of his army, we saw him, Darius himself, his face contorted with rage as he realized how thoroughly we'd outmaneuvered him. The crystalline maze had divided Darius's forces, but he wasn't finished. With a group of his most loyal soldiers, he fought his way toward our position, his face twisted with fury. "You think these parlor tricks will stop me?" His voice boomed across the battlefield. "This estate is mine by right." Through the focus stone, Sarah's warning came sharp and clear. "He's carrying something, some kind of artifact. It's disrupting the crystal patterns." She was right. As Darius advanced, the pure crystal formations nearest to him began to crack and fade. He held what looked like an ancient amulet, its dark energy pulsing with each step. Another relic from Varaine, Helena realized. He must have been working with her all along. Lilith's song faltered for a moment as she sensed the artifact's power. But then something remarkable happened. The ancient matrix responded on its own, its pure resonance rising to meet this new threat. "The land remembers," Lilith said, her voice carrying the wisdom of the original song. "It won't be corrupted again." I stepped forward to meet Darius, the nullstone glowing with accumulated power. "You never understood what this place truly is. It's not just land and resources, it's alive. Sentiment," he spat, raising the dark artifact. "That's always been your weakness." But as he tried to unleash the artifact's power, the pure crystals surrounding him began to sing, not with force or violence, but with harmony, the same harmony that had defeated Varaine. "Now," I commanded. Lilith's song reached its crescendo, joined by Helena and the council mages. The ancient matrix pulsed with blinding light, and Darius's artifact shattered in his hands. His remaining forces, seeing their leader's weapon destroyed and finding themselves trapped in an ever-shifting crystal maze, began to surrender. Darius himself stood alone, finally comprehending the magnitude of his defeat. "You've lost everything," he said bitterly as Lyra's guards moved to arrest him. "Your old life, your identity. You're not even the woman I married." I looked at Lilith, at our allies, at the restored land around us, blooming with pure crystal formations. "No," I agreed. "I'm someone much stronger." As the sun set on the battlefield, the ancient matrix's song echoed through the valley, not a song of victory or defeat, but one of healing and renewal. The estate had found its true guardian at last. Chapter 18, Healing Wounds. The days following Darius's defeat were filled with both triumph and sorrow. While we had secured our victory, the cost had been significant: damaged lands, injured allies, and a community shaken by conflict. "The council has officially recognized your claim to the estate," Helena reported, sorting through a stack of documents. "Darius's crimes have been documented, and he'll face judgment in the capital." Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence was supportive. "The other estates are already sending envoys. Your success with the ancient matrix has attracted considerable attention." I stood at the window of my study, watching workers clear debris from the battlefield. Pure crystal formations continued to emerge, their song helping to heal the scarred earth. "Mother," Lilith called softly from the doorway, "the village elders are asking about their homes. Many were damaged during the fighting." "We'll rebuild," I assured her. "The ancient matrix isn't just for defense. It can help us restore what was lost." Marcus entered with his own reports. "The mercenaries who surrendered are offering to help with reconstruction. Many of them were just hired hands, not loyal to Darius." "And what of our own people?" I asked. "Tired but determined," Lyra answered, joining us. "They're proud of what we accomplished here. They want to be part of what comes next." I touched the nullstone, feeling its connection to the pure crystals that now dotted our lands. "Then let's show them what's possible when we work in harmony with the land instead of trying to control it." The work of rebuilding began in earnest. Under Lilith's guidance, the pure crystal formations helped accelerate the restoration of damaged buildings and scorched fields. Their songs seemed to breathe new life into everything they touched. "The villagers are calling it the Crystal Renaissance," Marcus reported with a smile. "They say the land hasn't been this fertile in generations." Through the focus stone, Sarah provided invaluable advice on integrating the ancient matrix's power into our reconstruction efforts. The original song doesn't just heal, it transforms. Use it wisely. I spent my mornings overseeing repairs and my afternoons meeting with various groups. Farmers planting new crops, miners eager to work with the pure crystals, craftsmen developing new techniques for working with the transformed materials. The other estates are sending observers, Helena mentioned during one such meeting. They want to learn from what we've accomplished here. Let them come, I decided. But make it clear, this isn't about exploitation. The crystals choose who they work with. Lilith had taken to teaching younger children about the ancient matrix, sharing her unique connection with the pure crystals. They understand so quickly, she told me proudly. It's like they can hear the song naturally. One evening, as I watched the sunset paint the crystal formations in brilliant colors, Lyra joined me on the balcony. Did you ever imagine this? She asked quietly. When you first woke up here as Elara? I touched the nullstone, remembering that confused first morning. Never. But now I can't imagine being anywhere else. As the weeks passed, signs of renewal appeared everywhere. The village marketplace bustled with activity, traders drawn by stories of our unique crystal-enhanced crops and crafts. The mine, now harmoniously integrated with the pure crystal formations, produced gems of unprecedented quality. The council scholars are fascinated by what we've achieved, Helena said during one of our evening meetings. They're calling it a new age of crystal mastery. Through the focus stone, Sarah cautioned us, remember Varaine's mistake. Don't let others pressure you into exploiting the Matrix's power too quickly. I nodded, watching Lilith in the garden below. She was showing a group of children how to communicate with the smaller crystal formations, their laughter mixing with the ancient song. We're establishing a school, I announced, not just for crystal work, but for all the knowledge we've gained. The next generation needs to understand the importance of harmony with the land. Marcus looked up from his ledgers. The estate can certainly support it now. Our trading revenues have tripled since the pure crystals began enhancing our goods. And what of the other estates? Lyra asked. They're still sending requests for guidance. We'll help them, I decided, but on our terms. The ancient Matrix's gifts aren't commodities to be bought and sold. They're responsibilities to be earned. As if in response, the pure crystal formations throughout the estate pulsed with gentle light, their song a reminder of the delicate balance we'd achieved. That evening, I called a special gathering in the Great Hall. Everyone who had stood with us through the battles was there, from council mages to village farmers. Lilith sat beside me, her presence a constant reminder of how far we'd come. We've achieved something remarkable here, I began, my voice carrying across the hushed room, not just victory in battle, but a new way of living with the land. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence added weight to my words. The ancient Matrix's song hummed through the crystal formations that now adorned the hall's walls. But our work isn't finished, I continued. The school we're building will ensure this knowledge isn't lost. The trading partnerships we're establishing will share our prosperity, and the harmony we've found with the ancient Matrix will protect future generations. Helena stepped forward with a formal scroll. The council has officially designated our estate as a center of crystal studies. Students from across the realm will come to learn. And they'll learn more than just crystal mastery, Lilith added, her young voice clear and confident. They'll learn about balance, about working with the land instead of against it. Marcus raised his glass. To new beginnings. The celebration that followed was joyous, but I found myself drawn to the quiet of the garden. The pure crystals glowed softly in the moonlight, their song a gentle reminder of the responsibility we carried. Lyra found me there, just as she had on that first confused morning when I woke as Elara. You're thinking about who you used to be, she said softly, or before all this. I touched the nullstone, feeling its familiar warmth. Sometimes, but this is who I am now, who I was meant to be. The estate's guardian, Lilith's mother, protector of the ancient Matrix. Above us, the stars shone brilliantly, reflecting off the crystal formations that now defined our lands. The future stretched before us, full of possibilities and challenges, but we would face them together, in harmony with the song that had brought us this far. Chapter 19, New Horizons. Spring arrived with unprecedented vigor, the pure crystal formations amplifying nature's renewal. The estate had transformed from a place of conflict into a center of learning and growth. The first group of students arrives next week, Helena announced during our morning meeting. 12 young mages, chosen by the council for their potential to work with the ancient Matrix. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence was warm with approval. They'll need careful guidance. Not everyone can hear the original song as clearly as Lilith does. Speaking of my daughter, she had blossomed in her role as a teacher. At 16 now, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that made my heart swell with pride. The trading caravans brought more requests, Marcus reported, shuffling through his papers. 3 more estates want to establish permanent crystal-enhanced trade routes. And the restoration projects? I asked. Lyra smiled. The western villages are thriving. The pure crystals have helped their orchards produce fruit we've never seen before. I walked to the window, watching workers construct the new school buildings. Crystal formations grew alongside the traditional stone walls, their song harmonizing with the sounds of construction. We're creating something unique here, I mused. Not just a school or a trading center, but a new way of living, a way that honors both progress and tradition, Helena added. The council is calling it the Crystal Renaissance, but it's more than that. The afternoon found me in the new Crystal Gardens, where Lilith was preparing for her first formal class. Young apprentices would soon arrive from across the realm, drawn by tales of our success with the ancient matrix. Are you nervous? I asked her, watching her arrange crystal formations into teaching displays. She smiled, reminding me so much of the scared young girl I'd first met when I awakened as Elara. A little, but the crystals help. Their song is clearer now than ever. Speaking of clarity, Helena interrupted, approaching with a concerned expression. We've received word from the capital. Darius's trial has concluded. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence sharpened with interest. What was the verdict? Exile, Helena reported. To the far reaches, beyond the crystal sea. He'll never be able to threaten us again. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, one I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Then it's truly over. Not over, Lyra corrected, joining us in the garden. Just beginning. The Trading Council wants to establish a permanent embassy here. They say our crystal-enhanced goods are changing markets across the realm. Marcus appeared with his ever-present ledger. And changing lives. The prosperity is spreading beyond our borders. 3 more estates have requested our guidance in establishing their own crystal harmonies. I watched as a new crystal formation emerged from the garden soil, its song joining the chorus that now defined our lands. We'll help them, but carefully. The ancient matrix's gifts must be earned through understanding, not seized through ambition. The first group of students arrived on a bright morning, their faces a mixture of awe and nervousness, as they took in the crystal formations that decorated our grounds. They're so young, I whispered to Helen as we watched them file into the courtyard. About the same age Lilith was when you first arrived, she reminded me with a knowing smile. Through the focus stone, Sarah offered guidance. Remember, each student will connect with the matrix differently. Some may excel at healing, others at growth or communication. The students gathered in the new crystal garden, where Lilith waited to begin their first lesson. My heart swelled with pride as she addressed them, her voice clear and confident. The ancient matrix isn't just about power, she explained, gesturing to the formations around them. It's about understanding, about listening to the song that's always been here. Marcus appeared at my side with his latest reports. The crystal-enhanced harvests have exceeded all expectations. 3 more villages have requested our agricultural guidance. And the trading routes? I asked. Secure and prospering, Lyra confirmed. The Crystal Sea merchants are particularly interested in establishing permanent relations. I touched the null stone, feeling its familiar warmth. So much had changed since that first morning when I awakened as Elara, confused and afraid. Now, watching these young students begin their own journeys, I felt a deep sense of purpose. As evening fell, I found myself in my private study, reviewing the day's events. The crystal formations cast a soft, pulsing light across my desk, where maps and letters from distant estates lay scattered. You've barely rested all day, Lyra chided gently, bringing in a tray of tea. There's so much to do, I replied, but accepted the steaming cup gratefully. Every day brings new opportunities, new responsibilities. Through the focus stone, Sarah's voice was thoughtful. You've created something unprecedented here. A place where the ancient matrix's power serves life and growth, not dominion. A knock at the door revealed Helena with the latest council reports. The news from the capital is all positive. Your success has inspired changes throughout the realm. Other estates are beginning to view their resources differently. And what of our own changes? Marcus asked, joining us with his evening accounts. The school, the trading routes, the crystal gardens, I assured him. But it's the smaller changes that matter most. As if to illustrate my point, Lilith appeared in the doorway, her face glowing with excitement. Mother, you should see what the students accomplished today. 2 of them actually heard the original song. I followed her to the garden, where the evening air resonated with crystal harmonies. The new students were gathered around a formation, their faces rapt with wonder as they learned to listen to its song. Looking at them, I remembered my own journey. From that first confused awakening as Elara to now. The nullstone warmed against my chest, a reminder of how far we'd come. You know, Lyra said softly, standing beside me, when you first arrived, you asked if you could ever belong here. I smiled, watching Lilith guide her students through their first attempts at crystal communication. The estate around us hummed with life and purpose, the ancient matrix's song woven into every aspect of our existence. I don't just belong here, I replied. This is home, and we're only beginning to discover what's possible. Above us, the first stars appeared in the deepening twilight, their light reflecting off countless crystal formations that dotted our lands. The future stretched before us, bright with promise and possibility. The autumn festival was in full swing. Crystal formations casting rainbow lights across the courtyard as villagers and students celebrated the year's successful harvest. Among the festivities, I noticed Kyle standing apart from the crowd, his expression thoughtful as he watched the dancers. You're brooding again, I said, joining him in the shadows. He smiled, but there was tension in his shoulders. Just thinking about how much has changed since I first helped you investigate that mine. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence was amused. You mean since you tried to convince her she was being too reckless? Someone had to be the voice of reason, he defended, but his eyes held warmth when they met mine. Lilith's laughter drew our attention as she danced with some of her students, the crystal formations pulsing in harmony with their movements. At 17 now, she was becoming a remarkable young woman. The council has offered me a permanent position, Kyle said suddenly. As their representative to the Crystal Trade Alliance, my heart skipped. Here at the estate, if that's what you want, he replied carefully. But Elara, we need to talk about us, about what happens next. The evening air grew cooler as Kyle led me away from the festivities to the crystal gardens. The formations glowed softly, their song a gentle backdrop to the distant sounds of celebration. Do you remember the first time we came here? He asked, stopping beside a particularly large crystal cluster, when you were still trying to convince everyone you could restore the mine? I smiled at the memory. You thought I was either brave or foolish. I still do, he chuckled, but now I know you're both. Through the focus stone, Sarah maintained a respectful silence, though I could feel her supportive presence. The council's offer isn't just about trade, Kyle continued, turning to face me. They want someone who understands both the ancient matrix and the new ways we're using it. Someone who can help guide other estates through their own transformations. And you think that's you? He took my hand, his fingers warm against mine. I think it could be us, together. The council knows what we've built here, not just the trade routes and the school, but the way we've merged the old knowledge with the new. The crystal formations pulse gently, their songs seeming to harmonize with my racing heart. Elara, he said softly, I'm not just asking about the council position. I'm asking if you'll share this future with me, all of it. I stood there, my heart pounding, as memories flooded through me. That first confused morning as Elara, the struggles with the mine, the battles against Darius, and through it all, Kyle's steady presence. When I first arrived in this world, I said softly, I was so lost. But you never treated me like I was crazy, even when I told you the truth about who I really was. He squeezed my hand. Because I saw who you are. Not just Elara or Anya, but someone who fights for what's right, who protects those she loves, who builds instead of destroys. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence radiated warmth. The ancient matrix responds to truth, to harmony. It always has. As if in response, the crystal formations around us began to pulse with a gentle light, their song rising in a beautiful crescendo. "Lilith adores you," I said, thinking of my daughter. "She's been dropping hints about us for months." Kyle laughed. "She's not exactly subtle. Yesterday she asked me when I was going to officially become her father. I felt tears welling in my eyes, but they were happy ones. Everything I'd fought for, the estate, the school, our new way of life, it all seemed to lead to this moment." The crystal formation song reached a crescendo as I looked up at Kyle, my decision clear in my heart. "Yes," I said simply, "to all of it. The council position, the future, us." His face lit up with joy as he pulled me close, and the crystal formations around us burst into brilliant colors, their song celebrating with us. "I was hoping you'd say that," a familiar voice called out. Lilith emerged from behind a crystal formation, followed by Helena, Marcus, and Lyra. "How long have you all been there?" I asked, laughing through happy tears. "Long enough," Helena smirked. "The council will be pleased. They've been hoping for this alliance." Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence radiated pure joy. "The ancient matrix sings for unions of true hearts. Listen." And indeed, the crystal song had changed, becoming something deeper, richer, a melody of promise and future. "Does this mean I can finally call you father?" Lilith asked Kale, her eyes sparkling with mischief and emotion. He opened his arms to her, and she rushed into our embrace. "I would be honored," he said, his voice thick with feeling. Marcus cleared his throat, consulting his ever-present ledger. "Well, this calls for a proper celebration. The Harvest Festival just became an engagement feast." As we walked back toward the festivities, hand in hand with Kyle and Lilith, I felt the nullstone warm against my chest. So much had changed since that first morning when I awakened as Elara. I had found not just a home, but a family, a purpose, and a love that bridged two worlds. The crystal formations lit our path, their song weaving together past and future, loss and discovery, endings and beginnings. Above us, the stars shone brilliantly in the autumn sky, witnesses to this moment when all the pieces of my journey finally fell into place. "Ready?" Kyle asked softly as we approached the celebrating crowd. I squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth of Lilith's presence on my other side. More than ready. This is exactly where I'm meant to be. And together, we stepped forward into our future, the crystal song rising around us like a blessing, like a promise, like love itself made manifest in light and sound. Epilogue, a song of tomorrow, 5 years later. The crystal spires of the Academy of Ancient Matrix Studies gleamed in the morning sun, their song a constant reminder of how far we'd come. From my office window, I could see students practicing in the courtyard, their crystal formations creating intricate patterns in the air. "Mother!" Lilith's voice carried across the grounds. At 22, she had grown into a remarkable young woman, now the youngest member of the Crystal Council and head instructor at the Academy. She hurried toward me, her ceremonial robes flowing behind her. "The delegates from the far reaches have arrived. They're amazed by our crystal-enhanced agriculture." Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence was warm with pride. "Show them how we've integrated the ancient matrix with modern farming techniques." "Already done," Kyle said, entering the office and wrapping an arm around my waist. My husband of 4 years still made my heart skip when he smiled. "Marcus is giving them the full tour of the trading routes." The estate had flourished beyond our wildest dreams. What began as a desperate attempt to restore a failing mine had transformed into a center of learning and innovation. The Crystal Renaissance, as people called it, had spread across the realm, bringing prosperity and harmony wherever the ancient matrix's song was properly understood. "Helena sends her regards from the capital," Lyra announced, joining us with her usual stack of reports. "The council has officially recognized our methods as the new standard for resource management." I touched the nullstone, now set in a crystal matrix of its own. Sometimes I still thought about my old life as Anya, but those memories felt like a distant dream. This was who I was meant to be, wife, mother, leader, guardian of the ancient ways. The evening celebration begins soon, Kyle reminded me. The whole village will be here to mark the Academy's 5th year. As we walked through the crystal gardens, now vast and intricate, I saw the results of our work everywhere. Children played beneath crystal formations that purified the air. Farmers tended fields where crystal-enhanced crops grew in abundance. Merchants discussed trade routes protected by crystal ward stones. The great hall was filled with familiar faces: Helena, Marcus, Lyra, and countless others who had stood with us through the years. Lilith took her place at the head table, her crystal-focused stone glowing with power and purpose. "To think," Kyle whispered in my ear, "all this started because you woke up one morning in a strange bed." I smiled, remembering that confused first day. "It started because I chose to embrace this world, to fight for it, to love it. Through the focus stone, Sarah's presence encompassed us all." And the song continues, growing stronger with each passing season. As evening fell, the crystal formations lit the sky with their ethereal glow. I stood with my family, Kyle, Lilith, and all those who had become part of our extended clan, watching the next generation of students practice their arts. The ancient matrix's song filled the air, a melody of hope and possibility. Whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, we would face them together, guided by the harmony we had discovered between old ways and new, between power and wisdom, between heart and destiny. This was my home, my legacy, my truth. And as the stars appeared above the crystal spires of our academy, I knew with absolute certainty that this was exactly where I belonged.